welcome to the Talking Bollocks podcast with me, Howard Smith, Howard H. Smith. Nearly forgot the H. It's lovely to have you back. Thanks for returning as always, Bollockers, and thanks if it's your first time listening. This is the boring, dull intro. I've never managed to find a format I like, so let's just get straight on with it. My name is Howard H. Smith. I am the lead singer of UK thrash band Acid Rain, active between 1988 and 1991, rebooted again in 2015, and coming at you live and direct wherever you may live. Just announced a gig in Burnley. Oh yeah, we're rocking the world. I'm also do stand-up comic. I do stand-up comic. I do stand-up comedy. You can find me at keithplatt.co.uk. I also do comedy as myself, but that's more of an MC role. What else do I do? We do this podcast. It's all right, isn't it? Right? At Talking Bollocks with a Z instead of an S on Twitter, and on Facebook and all that other shit. So come and hook up with us in any way you can. It's always good to get some feedback. I hadn't meant to lead off with this, but amazing news, people. I was actually contacted by a female bollocker who doesn't even live in the UK, lives in the States, originally from New Zealand. Hey, how amazing is that? Incredible. Female bollockers, they do actually exist. So, how bizarre is that? I know some of you were listening thinking, wow, that's something I never thought I'd hear, and you'd be right, and I would be one of those people who thought I'd never liked to hear. So, hello, Jane. Smith is part of her surname. I don't want to disclose her full name because who'd want to you lot stalking them. But she's no relation, so that's amazing, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. So that's the good stuff. The bad stuff. There's no other place to start, unfortunately, and that is Manchester. Fucking hell. Sporting events and entertainment events you like to think are almost sacred, but no. So unfortunately, the events in Manchester were horrific. What I don't want to do is sit here and go on about how horrific it was, because we all know. And to be honest, it's now 3 days since it happened, and the news coverage is bordering on sick. It's bordering on interfering and with people's with grief. And at some point very soon, we need to stop giving the oxygen to terrorists of consistently digging through the wreckage of people's lives and putting people who are quite clearly in an emotional state on television. It's just, but anyway, look, it was. What can I say that by the time you've heard this, you haven't heard before? So the same as you, the same as all of you listening. It was just horrendous. And who would have thought that I would not be opening the podcast with the terribly sad news about Chris Cornell? Because when that happened, I thought, right, okay, I'm going to have to lead with that on the podcast. Something even worse has happened. So, what a great month to be alive. No one knows what happened there with Chris Cornell. His wife is saying he wasn't depressed at the time. I don't know, but it really made me evaluate the Soundgarden discography, I guess, for want of a better phrase. It was. I've been playing it, and wow, the signs are in there. I mean, there's songs about depression. Do you know what? I'm quite embarrassed that I listened to Outshined, and I'd never really taken in what it was about. And it's but I guess because it's kind of an aggressive song. I don't know. It's just. Of course, it's about depression, and then of course, Fell on Black Days, The Day I Tried to Live. He was trying to give us a clue on every album, There's a song about depression on every album, which is something I've been through, something I've lived with, and if you're listening to this and you suffer, you know, you have my utmost respect, because sometimes it does seem incredibly difficult to put one foot in front of the other and get out of bed. But look, a terrible loss, a tragic loss. Yeah, I mean, hit me where I live. Big Soundgarden fan, big Chris Cornell fan. If you can dig out on YouTube Chris Cornell live in Sweden, search for that. Unbelievable. What a performance. Just him and an acoustic guitar playing some Audio Slave songs, playing some Soundgarden songs, playing some Temple of the Dog songs. It's the first place I ever heard him do his version of Billie Jean, and it's just unbelievable. It really is just fucking unbelievable, and a real tribute to the guy. So yeah, check that out. So hopefully we can get a little bit more upbeat here with the reaction to last month's podcast containing the Dan Spitz interview. And boy, basically there were more views on my YouTube channel. There were more views for that interview than the whole of 2016 combined. So once again, a big thanks to Chris Davies, who managed to sort that interview out for me. He's working away in the background trying to get a few other people on board as well, and it's going very well. So yeah, we're going to have some interesting interviews on here coming up soon, but as well as this episode, obviously. But yeah, wow, it was just phenomenal. Yeah, it was just, I just thought I'd mention it because I'm a self-publicist, and made me feel good. And I've got massive ego. Seeing all those views on YouTube, fucking great. Well, something I've spoken about on here before. Okay, sorry about that, a little bit of a glitch. But one thing I've spoken about on the podcast before is the Ronnie James Dio hologram. There's a lot of death at the beginning of this beginning of this podcast, and so yes, on we go with the afterlife and the Dio hologram. Please stop with the Ronnie Dio hologram. It is fucking horrible. Now I've heard people on other podcasts go on about, oh no, it's all right, oh it's a good idea. It's because they've not actually watched it. It's fucking awful. It's terrible to watch. For a start, right? It's obviously from he starts interacting with the crowd, as in seeing things in the crowd that aren't there, obviously, because this is from a performance when he was alive. And also, there's the rest of the band. There's no on-stage chemistry. You know, they can't run over and high-five him or give him a nod and go like, oh, no, it's just horrible. It's like basically a big cinema screen watching one bloke sing and point with three other kind of like people moving around, four other people moving around underneath him. It's bloody awful. And I mean, I know I shouldn't, but I mean, he's not there. It's just, it's simple as that. He's not fucking there. It's not Ronnie, so it's not worth seeing. It's pissing on his memory. I can't understand why his wife's behind it. And Jesus Christ, how'd you rehearse for something like that? Brilliant, eh? Ronnie's never late for rehearsal, is he? No. What do? Do they rock up? Do they play to a click track? Do they just have his voice boom through a PA whilst they're rehearsing his songs? It's just a fucking horrible idea. Just stop it. And I'll tell you something else that needs to stop. I am sick and tired of every single fucker on this planet talking about Lady Gaga and Metallica's performance. Like, can we please fucking let it go? Who's the latest, right? Jason says that the Gaga performance was made better by the gear fucking up. Well, if it had been her mic, maybe. To be fair, the whole thing was a fucking car crash anyway. But who cares? Who cares? The one thing I'm glad I've heard recently about all of this is James has said, seemingly contradicting Lars, but Lars is one to always leave doors open in case, cha-ching, it might be worth visiting again in the future. James just comes out and goes, no, we won't be doing anything with Lady Gaga. And I am sick and fucking tired of hearing about her energy. I really am. This woman sounds like a fucking power station, the way people are talking about her. Oh, yeah. Oh, she's got a great energy. She brings great energy. She's got organic... I sound like Trump. That's an accident. But let's keep going. She's got a great energy. She's so energetic. She's got such an organic energy. Okay, yeah, I said that. Okay, moving on. Fucking hell, that is not a bad Trump impression, right? This is happening as you hear it, okay? Please don't think I fucking planned this. But I think I might have a Trump impression in me. This is a result. This is something that I was not expecting. Brilliant. But anyway, I'm sick. I'm sick of hearing about the energy. Okay. No, that's not very good, is it? That's more sort of Ronald Reagan. Aye. Just going off. It's just American politician. American politician impressions. But anyway, and actually, just chuck in here. If anybody has seen Megadeth's tribute to Chris Cornell, they do Outshined, and they try, and Dave sounds like he's having an aneurysm while he's singing it. But to be fair, he does say it doesn't sound very good, and I'm not the only person who's noticed this. But he started sounding like Trump. He's got the mic and he's going, okay, we lost a very good friend today. Very good friend. Chris Cornell, one of the greatest rock stars. And it was... The Trump impression's gone now. I don't know. It was there for a minute. It's gone now. But seriously, he's got the Trumpisms. He's got them down, and it is fucking embarrassing. It really fucking is. Oh dear. Anyway, so little callback to last month's podcast. Corey Taylor. I think the phrase was. We've captured lightning in a jar. No one has seen anything like this for 1,000 years. Yeah, okay. Heard the new Stone Sour single. Jaw-breaking yawn. No lightning anywhere. Funnily enough, do you know what it sounds like? Yeah, that's right. It sounds like Stone Sour. It sounds like mid-tempo, pretty harmless, inoffensive, very unoriginal, middle of the road, heavy metal. That's it. I mean, if that's what you're into, wonderful. Is it gonna change the world? No. Is it gonna make anything any better? Is it gonna move things forward? No. It's just there. It just exists. Okay. So thank you, Corey, but no lightning in a jar. What else? Oh yeah, right. Okay. So there's two things happened with me since we spoke last. One is is what I'm going to tell you about now, which is not particularly big or interesting, and another is considerably bigger. So first up, I went for a hearing test, and it turns out that apart from two frequencies, not only is my hearing average, in fact it's above average, in fact it's what is known as perfect. Check that shit out. How the fuck did that happen? She drew a line through the little dots where you hear it, and she says if the dots are in there, it means it's perfect. And in both ears, I only had 2 dots out of 10 that weren't in the perfect banding. I don't know why I'm telling you this, right? And I don't know why I'm going on like it's an achievement, like I've done something. Do you know what I mean? Like, got perfect hearing. It's took a lot of work, a lot of effort, hours and hours of slaving in the ear shop. I mean, I honestly, it's just suddenly hit me that I am just trying to take credit for something that has got nothing to do with me. Basically, I'm taking credit for not fucking up my hearing. That's what I'm doing. I'm basically saying, I haven't shoved pencils in my ears, therefore my hearing's okay. And been in a metal band, it's all right. I haven't managed to jab a sharp implement into my ears and burst my eardrums. No, I've done really well. So to all of you out there who have hearing, my apologies. My apologies for raining on your parade. You are great too. And the other thing that's happened with me is I wasn't sure whether to tell you guys this or not, but I've told you more personal stuff. I have been made redundant from the job I was in because yes, believe it or not, gibbering away in your front room, being in a band that gigs occasionally, and doing stand-up. Funnily enough, not all of that is enough to well, to buy a donut, frankly. So one does need some form of employment, and So anyway, look, the good news is I'm not crying about it. I do get 3 months salary, and I'm actually to be honest, I didn't enjoy it. I really didn't enjoy it. In fact, when anybody asked me about it, I said I hated it, and so it took a little while to sink in, but to actually be paid to leave a job you hate is a bit of a result. And I'm sure some of you listening to this would be thinking, fucking hell, I wish they'd pay me to leave my job, Howard. So I'm certainly not going to, and it's a chance to really look at what I want to do next. What that is, I don't know. What the shape of any of that looks like, I haven't got a clue. I just thought I'd mention it because I have been, I've been pretty honest and open with you guys from day one. And so, I thought I'd mention it. Okay, cool. Going back to Megadeth, actually. A couple more things on Megadeth. Mustiane was more than happy to be censored in Malaysia. Doesn't want to cause any offence. I find it quite offensive that somebody who claims to be dry and been through rehab is willing to sell beer, but it would appear there's nothing that Mustiane won't do in order to make a buck. So now it's censor his own music. It's have stalkers round to your house and your new little Megadeth jamboree. There's just basically nothing that he won't do. And so, good. I mean, I know I've said in the past, well, whatever people have to do to make money these days, I don't know. Do you draw the line somewhere? Iron Maiden were happy to be censored to play China. I don't know. I don't know. I know that, all I do know is that where one opinion of my band and another opinion of another band will completely differ and contradict each other based on the bands and how much I like the people in them. So, maybe I should just shut the fuck up. But then this would be a shit podcast. And apparently, finally, before we go into the first interview, Dave Gehlke informs us that music is a gift from our creator. So there you go. I don't think he means Mila. I don't think he means creator with a K. But it's a gift from our creator, apparently, because we were made in his image, and therefore, so what he's saying is basically, God, right, likes music. Yeah, because he created us in his image. So just imagine this, okay? Let's go for the should we go for the traditional version of God? Bloke, bushy beard, up in the clouds, whatever. Okay, and he's busy making man. I don't know how, I don't know where to start there. Maybe we just imagine he's making his like out of plasticine, and he's just like moulding these little figures and going like, okay, right. So I don't know what accent it would be. I don't know what fucking country he's from. And if you're American, I know this is going to really fucking surprise you, okay? But not sure you're his favourite country, okay? So stop asking him to bless you all the fucking time at the end of every sentence. Can I have a pint of beer, please? God bless America. And what are you doing today? God bless America. So anyway, there he is. He's making little people. He hasn't made countries yet, so he doesn't even know America exists. So please, once again, stop asking him to bless it. He doesn't know what it is, right? He's not made countries, right? He just made a big ball, and just stuck us on it. 2, apparently. 1 was Adam and 1 was Eve, if you believe that utter fucking fairy story. And if you do, you got, hey, imaginary friends. That's absolutely fine. It's cool. Whatever gets you through the day, whatever helps you deal with reality. You want to create a parallel universe and an ulterior reality that makes you get through the day? Absolutely fine. So there he is, okay. How much have I managed to cram into this of my own philosophy? What a twat. So he's made the little figures, and then he's like, little Adam, little Eve, he's just going to put them down in their little garden that he's made on this little ball, okay. And he just puts them in, and he looks at them and he goes, oh shit, music, make music, by the way, because I love it. Love music. I know it's not been invented yet, but heavy metal is my favourite kind. Black Sabbath, my favourite band. I know. Who'd have thought it? Hey? Who would have thought that I'd be involved with creating a form of music which has been linked with Satanism from the day it was made, the day it was created. Hey, who would have thought that? But no, love. I tell you, I do. I love Sabbath. Always have, always will. Hey, the Osbournes, Sharon. Hey, crack me up. Absolutely brilliant. Anyway, I'm God. It's time for an interview. Fuck me. It is time for an interview, and I'll try and glue my head together. This is me with Dez. Sorry, I can't just jump into it. It's Dez Fafara of Devildriver. I've wanted to get him on the podcast for ages, and I finally managed it. And this was a really cool, relaxing chat. And yeah, we were just shooting the breeze, and it was really, really enjoyable. I was sat in grey, rainy London. He was on the phone in California in 70 degrees of heat, and yeah, it was cool. We had a chat. I recorded it. Here it is.
Times can play some practical jokes. It's all good.
It can indeed. So, how's your day, man? What you been up to?
Oh man, it's a Sunday afternoon in California. It's about 79 degrees, and I'm right now walking with the wife around some. I don't know. She's picking out flowers and vegetables and stuff to plant. So I'm just kind of cruising around, enjoying the day with her.
Oh man, I wish I hadn't asked. It's fucking grey clouds and cold here.
Oh yeah, okay. I heard you. Didn't you guys just have snow recently, right?
Well, I'm in London, but so not quite. It doesn't. Right. It doesn't. It's got to be pretty shit to snow in London, but
yeah. I get it, man. I get it. But out here it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm rarely home for this time of the year. We just have a few one-offs. We play in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We play with Danzig and Ministry, and then after that we have just one more one-off over at Chicago Open Air where we're playing with Slipknot and Ozzy and Slayer and everybody. So I'm fortunate to be home at this time of the year right now, and in springtime is a fantastic time to live and be in California.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say that. When you say you're not normally home for this time of year, I thought you were just going to say I'm not normally home. Because well,
I am not normally home, but I'm definitely not normally home this time of year. I mean, this is touring season for sure, and we're working on some stuff right now in the studio, and so I'm fortunate enough to be home with my family during springtime in California.
So you're back in the studio already? Is that EP or is that demos or?
Well, we've been back in the studio for about a year right now. We're working on something absolutely fantastic, something that's never been done, that's going to come out next year, and it's kind of going to bridge the gap there between Trust No One and the next full length, the next original full length. So we've been working very, very, very diligently, and like I said, it affords me a little bit of time home.
Right, so that sounds like some Devildriver covers coming out. Is
Well, absolutely. We're doing something that's never been done, mixing the genres that's never been done. If you come over into America and you come onto an American heavy metal tour bus, you're definitely going to hear guys like Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson. You're going to hear a lot of outlaw country. There's a respect level as well from the outlaw country guys. I mean, you got guys like Jamie Johnson that wear Lamb of God shirts on stage and stuff, and then you've got a lot of respect in the heavy metal musician world for outlaw country musicians and what they did and the ground they broke. So Devildriver's doing an outlaw country cover record,
wow.
but heavy Devildriver style, and it's really turned into something fantastic. There's over 25 guests, and I can just give you an example of one song, which is Ghost Riders in the Sky. Right. I flew out to Memphis. I recorded at Johnny Cash's cabin with John Carter Cash Jr., his son, and his wife, Anna Cash.
Wow.
Was fortunate to sign the mantle over the fireplace right next to Willie Nelson in the John Cash cabin. And as a matter of fact, Randy from Lamb of God is also going to be on that song. So just to tell you the diverse things that are getting ready to happen, and there's well over 20 guests, most of them Grammy Award winning or legendary artists. Another one is Leaving from Fear. I grew up on punk rock, Circle Jerks, The Germs, Black Flag, Fear. And Lee Ving is also he's the only artist that's doing 2 songs with me. So it's becoming, this thing's becoming a monster for sure. We were going to go in, do a cover record to kind of bridge the gap and have some fun with it. The music turned out so fantastic that anybody we started to approach, from John Five to Rob Zombie to, like I said, Mark Morton from Lamb of God to all sorts of other artists, started wanting to come on with us. And so now it's just really turned into something spectacular, and we can't wait to share it. These are songs that in my head I've always heard heavy. I mean, even when my parents played it around the house, I would hear them heavy. So it's great to do it.
That's awesome, and it must be that must be interesting vocally as well, because it gives you something other than Devildriver stuff to work on. And I mean, as a vocalist myself, I always find it interesting trying to interpret other people's stuff.
Well, that's really fun. That's a fun part of it. I've never been able to sing anybody else's lyrics. However, Devildriver has done many covers, and if we'd wasted years from Iron Maiden. I mean, from my vocal style to try to tackle Bruce's vocal style, it's almost, I thought it was going to be impossible, which is why we took it on. But we've done very out of the box songs. Black Soul Choir. We've done Black Soul Choir by 16 Horsepower, which by all means they're like an alternative, alt dark country, folk act almost. And we killed that. It was a fan favorite. We came out of pocket and did Sail by AWOL Nation quite unknowingly before the song became a hit for them, actually. And then, but we took that on. So we started really feeling like, okay, we're having such a good time doing covers. Let's go in and do something spectacular, and let's do something that has never been done. And let's really tell the world as well, like, if you come over to the United States and you're on a, punk rock tour bus or a heavy metal tour bus, you're going to hear outlaw country. I mean, a perfect example is when I called Lee Ving at his house, which still sounds crazy to me. I called Lee Ving at his house. He immediately started singing a Hank Sr. song to me and sang like the whole thing country to me. So there's a massive respect level between genres, and I don't know if people in the UK or in mainland Europe or around the world know that. And so this is kind of us as well sharing, like, hey, this is what goes on in rock and roll culture in America. You got guys like, Mick Jagger who love that stuff, and you got heavy metal cats like me and, like I said, Randy and a lot of other cats that adore that music,
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I think you're right. I don't think that's something that's kind of known over here, really.
No, not at all. I mean, I can remember one of the first guys that we called to be on it was Corey Taylor, and I mean, it took him 5 minutes to come back with a song choice because he knew all the songs that we were getting ready to do, and we hope that Corey has enough time to be on it as well. Right now, he's got so much going on, but just the fact that he would call me back within 5 minutes and had a song choice will show you that all of these artists are also embedded in the careers of these outlaw artists that really broke ground. I mean, they weren't pop, they were outlaw. I mean, these guys were riding in their cars back and forth to gigs. I mean, and they weren't pop country as well. So there's just a massive respect level between, them and metal and them.
Yeah, and it's I mean, metal is kind of like an outlaw kind of music as well, isn't it? It's
100%, man. 100%. It's outlaw. I mean, and especially now, where heavy metal is now. I mean, it's like down where blues is and punk rock right now. Like it is definitely gone completely underground. That's just the fact, and especially in America, that's just a fact. I mean, and so it's cool to pay tribute to those guys, and there's so many stories that if you just go back and you listen to these stories of these artists and how they traveled and how they got record deals and how they handled themselves and their career, it's incredible,
Yeah, absolutely. And so it kind of sounds as well like you're kind of pushing against an open door with getting people on this. It's like you can kind of come up with a perfect wish list, and everyone's going to go. We had no
idea that this was going to happen. I was just figuring, look, I'm going to go do country tunes. I definitely want to go to the Cash Cabin. It's been a lifetime goal of mine, and I want to work with John Carter Cash. After that happened, the floodgates opened. Everybody that heard we were doing it. I mean, I was getting calls, at midnight from guys on the road. Hey, man, is this true? Like, I'm hearing you guys are doing this cover record. And I would to myself, just say, yeah, we are. Why? And I want to be on it. Do you have room for me? And then it became, okay, this is not just a Devildriver record. This is going to have a ton of guests on it. And now, like I said, the guest list is insane. If I were to go through all the names right now, it would take me a long time.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Presumably the label were into this straight away as soon as you mentioned it.
Well, they're an Austrian label. You know, they're over in mainland Europe. And like they said, hey, we don't know if mainland Europe or the UK is going to even get this. And I said, even better. Like, I want to do things that are different. I want to push boundaries. I want to open people's minds. It's what I've done from the start with Coal Chamber. It's what I've done from the start with Devildriver. It's why our fans came up with our own title for our music, because they couldn't categorize us and started calling us the Groove Machine, the California Groove. It's like, so that means, you know, what are we doing here? We've got to break boundaries. It's why every Devildriver record sounds different from one another, even though it has a signature sound, is because we love to break our own boundaries. And this one in particular is something that needs to be done, has never been done. And people around the world need to know, definitely, you know, that this music goes hand in hand, 100%.
And it's really cool because you know there's going to be kids who listen to this and are going to discover country through your exposure to
absolutely. It. I mean, they may hear Ghost Riders in the Sky with, like I said, John Carter Cash and Randy and I, and say, wait, what's this? And go back and hear the original, which is so haunting that it's like, if you listen to Johnny Cash do that song, that is haunting right there. And to open minds, to open doors. That's my thing. I've never had a love for purists, meaning the guy who just said, oh, all I listen to is metal. That's it. My life is just metal. It's like, really, dude? Like, you need to open your mind. You're losing probably 85% of the music around the world, be it blues, be it blues, be it outlaw country, be it, like, who knows, Hawaiian slide guitar, tiki music. I mean, who knows? Like, you need to open your mind to all sorts of other music. And I've always been part of that. I mean, it started with me in Coal Chamber. I mean, people would say, like, cite your influences. And I'd say Bauhaus and Motorhead. And they'd be like, huh? Like, they couldn't get it, that I was as equally immersed in Alien Sex Fiend and Bauhaus and Love and Rockets, and as I was Fear, Black Flag, Germs, the Circle Jerks, as I was Motorhead, and, like, you know, all the older metal stuff that I listened to as well. So for me, I've always been not only an open book when it comes to that, but I've always trying to open people's minds on, hey, you need to listen to some different kinds of music here, man, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny. You know, earlier you were saying about you're gonna go over and do some gigs with Danzig at Ministry, and when you were saying that, and then you're going over to play with Slayer and Ozzy and stuff, and I was thinking, there's not many bands I can think of who can play both those bills and not get bottled off at least one of them. You know what I mean?
Right, absolutely. I agree with you. Look, man, I've just been very fortunate in my career that I'm a real straight shooter, so I really don't have any enemies, and I've been fortunate to meet all my heroes. I'm still in awe of what I do daily. I'm a blue collar working guy that have come from a blue-collar working family. I was a runaway when I was 15. I was in prison. I mean, I know what it's like out there in the world. So I know how fortunate I am. And that goes hand in hand with every guy that I meet, be it, hey, Al Jurgensen, do you want to guest on, the first Coal Chamber record in 13 years? Yes, Dez, I want to do it. Like, I've always been fortunate with that. I mean, just doing this Blackest of the Black with Danzig is because Danzig called my house at 11 o'clock at night and was like, look, man, we want to have you on this. Do you want to do it? And I was like, absolutely, man, Glenn. Glenn was my first tour ever in Coal Chamber, and right. The guy's been a great friend ever since. So I've been very fortunate. And I share like-minded ideals with all these other artists. If you talk to Glenn Danzig, he'll tell you he loves Elvis. If you talk to Al Jurgensen from Ministry, he'll tell you he loves outlaw country. I mean, God, listen to some of this stuff. And vice versa with me or everybody else that's on this record. They listen to other genres of music. So I like open-minded people, and I like to get together and work with them.
Yeah, well, like-minded people attract like-minded people, don't they? And
100%.
And are you going to be? Have you kind of figured out how you're going to work some of these covers into the set, or are you going to be? Are you going to be playing them live?
We don't really know. We're like, okay, are we going to take one or two of them and put them in the set, Or are we going to go out and just do the whole record? And if we do that, then maybe that's going to isolate people that want to hear other Devildriver songs. So how will that work out? We don't know yet. What we're doing is we knew that we didn't want to wait 3 years between records. A lot of artists will make you make 3 or 4 years between records. I'm a massive music fan. When my favorite bands make me wait 3 or 4 years between music, it's a bummer. So we knew we were going to have a little gap and a little time off with some one-offs and stuff we were doing. We started messing with some songs, and before you knew it, we all were kind of looking at each other going, we have something extremely good here and extremely different, and not only that, it's never been done. So when you hear a down-tuned heavy guitar doing a song like, just say, Ghost Riders in the Sky, and you hear lap pedal steel behind it, like, it's the most chilling thing when you hear it.
Yeah.
So look, we've stumbled upon something, and we started thinking, okay, this is definitely volume 1, volume 2 kind of thing, because we're going to do more of these. And there's been 25 other guests that have called me, some of them massive individuals in the entertainment industry, that I had to say, hey, I don't have any more room. I can't have 2 or 3 guests. I can't have 2 or 4 guests on each song. So I think it's going to be fantastic when we do another one as well and bring some other people on. But I'm looking forward to releasing this one, and very fortunate to be at home and have some time to do something like this.
Oh man, I'm really pleased for you, because it sounds absolutely like a labour of love.
Oh, 100%. I mean, but look, it's no secret I'm not 20 anymore. So bucket list things are very important. Who do I want to work with? Where do I want to go? For instance, we just got back from South Africa. Well, in a 23, 24 year career, I've never been. So we decided to go. And it's the same thing with the music that we're doing, and it started out me going, hey man, I want to do a song of punk rock covers, like real deal punk rock, Circle Jerks, Germs, Black Flag, Dead Kennedys, like my punk rock that I grew up on. Yeah. And then we started talking about outlaw music, and just so happens the outlaw thing started to happen before the punk rock thing. So, who knows? But it's really all about, at this point, doing bucket list items. And I've never done a cover record with Devildriver, and I've also never done a double record with Devildriver. So there's things in the works for sure.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, are these songs where you're thinking, well, you know what, we've got some real good guests here. We could get some really great exposure. Let's do a video as well, and see if we can break down some barriers that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, right now what we did is say we're not putting a release date on it. We're not putting expectations on it. When it's done, it's done. When the music is done, when the photos are done, when all the guests are in, we'll come up with an idea for a video. And like I said, it was just supposed to be me and maybe 1 or other 2 guests. I mean, the first 3 people that I talked to are on the thing right now, but it was just supposed to be me and a few people, and then it ended up turning out to be what it is. So we'll see in the future what it's going to turn into, and I'm sure there'll be a video for it, etc.
Yeah, right. Okay, so it's almost like Devildriver and Friends right now.
Yeah, and it wasn't meant to be that. It was just something like, hey, we're home, let's do something fun. And God, like I said, the calls just kept coming in, and before you know it, it just turned into something really special. And the camaraderie between it, like to hear the stories, is unreal. And we should probably be doing this interview, at the beginning of next year for the record, and we probably will. But,
cool.
Since you asked me what's going on, and since a lot of people say, like, so is there a cover thing in the works? It's like, I'm not going to keep it hidden. I'm going to let everybody know what's going on. But when I call, like, a legend, a guy I grew up on, a guy, like, literally when I ran away from home and was, sleeping under bridges, stealing food when I was 16 years old, I was wearing a Fear shirt. And here I am on the phone with Lee Ving, and he's singing me Hank Williams Sr. songs, and sounding amazing. I'm thinking to myself, what common bond is here? If legends of the punk rock realm are singing outlaw country songs, if legends in the metal world are calling me, like, almost with desperation, going, dude, tell me there's a song. Tell me there's a song I can be on that you don't have too many people. That, for me, actually, that sold it for me. I was like, okay, this is something that needs to be done.
Well, the thing is where it's one of those things, isn't it, where you can't beat spontaneity, and that's what this is. It's spontaneous, isn't it? It's taken on a life. Yeah. It's taken on a life of its own, basically. It's just like you are now just curating lots of people's fantasies.
Oh, just so spontaneous, absolutely, and I just think people are really going to love this thing. Absolutely. So we're excited to share it with everybody, and we're working diligently. I start vocals in 12 or 13 days on this, and it's going to be exciting.
And I mean, that's just. Have you been? Are you kind of rehearsing the tunes as well and developing how you want to approach them vocally?
Yeah, well, I'm going to approach it Devildriver style, and if other things are needed, I'm going to do it. If I go into something that needs a very heavy, hard, clean vocal, I'll do it. So far we've realized that the more brutal the track, we'll always have somebody behind me, like say a John Carter Cash or somebody else, doing a clean vocal.
Right.
That holds in the melody. So
yeah,
there's real spectacular in and outs. Here's the thing, right? We have no expectations. I'm not expecting. I don't care what it sells the first week or doesn't sell. I don't care about any of that. There's no expectations about anything. Is the music going to come out as heavy as Devildriver, or is it going to be light, or where's it going to go? It's like really no one cares as long as it's good. And I think that's art. That's when you sit down in front of a canvas with 50 colors and you just start throwing paint. Then you look back at the end of the night and you go, what did I just do? So we wanted this to have that kind of a feel. No expectations whatsoever. Just let's do something so pure of ourselves, and obviously pure of like the other 20, 25 people on this thing, that it comes out, you're going to hear it and go, okay, this is so from the heart. You got to hear this. And the main thing for me, somebody said to me, like, who are you most looking forward to having hear this? Like, do you want country fans to hear this? Do you want metal fans? Do you want Devildriver fans to love this? And I said, to be honest with you, I know every single band is going to be listening to this. So that's who I'm writing it for. All the bands that are going to go, duh, we should have done this. Like, oh, we missed it. Like, or the guys who are going to be like, I told you we should have done this. So there's going to be so many bands in the back of their tour bus jamming this thing to see what we've done, that's going to be the pleasure for me, is to have other artists hear what we've done. And beyond that, the listening public, to let them, feel something just completely original. And not only that, to feel us just out of the pocket, in a fact of no expectations, no anything. And bands go into new records with expectations. Oh, if it doesn't sell as much as the one before, and if it doesn't cross over as much as the one before, and if we don't get some form of radio, if we don't get some form of touring behind it, it's like, nope, we throw all that out the window. We just do the art, and then we see what the art brings. I haven't done anything as pure as that since probably the first Cold Chamber record or the first Devildriver record, because there's always a bit of, okay, that song is a fantastic song, but it does not fit with Devildriver. And that's why we started talking about doing a double record later on, because there's so many things that we do that are out of the pocket, that are different from what Devildriver normally does, that we're tired of that. And we want to put those artistic notions, artistic visions out for people and let them hear different sides of us. So, don't be surprised if you get a staggered release double record after this next one, because this, that's where we're at in our heads. I mean, we've already got 15 songs for that ready now, and I'll be damned if we're going to write 40 and only be able to show 12 to the public, because I'm not at the age where I'm going to wait on music. So now we want to go put out, 30 songs for people, 15 a record, and put it out. I mean, I think it's important at this time in our career as well.
Also, I think that you mentioned a few things there that were of interest, but also the fact what you're saying, like other bands listening to it. It's like, whether it's bands or whether it's the public, and whether they get it or not. Some people are going to listen to this and they're not going to get it. It's not going to be for them. But even those people will be saying, but you can't knock it. This is just, it's undeniable. It's a pure vision. And,
it is.
And you're doing it. And I think whether you like it or not, everybody respects that, because ultimately that's what we all want to do. We all want to do what the fuck we like.
Correct. And I have a label that affords me the opportunity to do the art that I love. I have a band that is completely behind doing the art that we all love. And like, this person will remain nameless, but he's in one of the biggest bands on the planet. And I got a phone call 2 weeks ago, and it was a voicemail. Hey, call me right away. And I actually thought, like, okay, we've either got a tour, they're either offering us a tour, or something's wrong. I called right away when I got home. And the guy got on the phone with me, and he's arguably one of the biggest vocalists in the world. And he said to me, hey, I heard you're doing this thing, Outlaw Country cover record. I don't have time right now. We got a lot going on. but this is fucking fantastic. And I went into how I grew up on rockabilly, psychobilly, and punk rock, and goth. I grew up on goth, and I grew up on outlaw country. My favorite times are my parents out in the desert. We used to ride motorcycles, and them listening to those outlaw country songs, and watching them and their them and their friends drink at night, and like these are my favorite times. And he said to me, dude, I just want to tell you what, I'm just calling you right now to tell you it's genius. And I said, hey, can I share your name with everybody? The fact that you called me and said it's genius. He said, absolutely. And so the fact that I'm not sharing his name just means I'm not going to go off of that,
Yeah.
But what it did for me, it solidified, because I immediately put him on speakerphone because my wife was there, and she just looked at me after the phone call. She goes, did you ever think you'd get that kind of a fucking phone call? Because they've only seen that guy backstage at festivals and said hello. You know each other. You know who each other is, obviously. Did you ever think you would get that kind of phone call? I said no, especially not about this. So we know we're on the right track.
Yeah.
We know that country people are going to dig it because it's something different, and we know that obviously the metal fans, they're going to love this, man, because it is dark, it is heavy, it is filled with Devildriver groove. But yet we stayed true to these songs that like just say so much. I mean, you don't get lyrics like "I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die." That's heavier than any. It's a Johnny Cash lyric for people who don't know.
Yeah.
But like that's heavier than anything any black metal guy has ever written. That's heavier than anything in metal I've ever heard in my entire life. And if you go into these songs, you'll hear lyrics like that are just so poignant, so to the point, so heavy.
Well, dude, you can't get more metal and more outlaw than doing gigs in fucking prisons.
Okay, you see what I'm saying? And let me tell you, 15 years ago when I was wearing a Johnny Cash shirt on stage, like, at big festivals, metal festivals, people thought I was crazy. Like, people would actually come up like, dude, that's not metal. I'd be, really? You don't know shit. Like, for real, So, look, we're excited. We're very excited. You can hear it in me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's that, man. And it's kind of about pushing boundaries for sure. We definitely want to push boundaries.
But it's interesting, as you said as well. You're in that place in your career, and as are your bandmates, where it's like, look, let's not fuck about here. Let's just do what we want to fucking do.
Absolutely, and the vibe in this band at this point too is so unbelievable. We're having the greatest time playing together. There hasn't been a fight or an argument, in over, in years at this point now.
Wow.
And so, you have something. I mean, that's a band talking, right?
Yeah, like, absolutely. Fucking hell.
That's fucking unusual,
Yeah.
And so, look, when you have that kind of thing happening, camaraderie happening, it's just fantastic. And we're like I said, we're having a great time.
Oh, that's awesome, because I know it's not always been like that, and look, I know myself. It's hard juggling 5 personalities, and I always say it's like tending a garden, and there's always one flower that's doing okay, and then there's another plant that needs water, and then all of a sudden all the plants are okay, but the shed bursts into flames.
Right, and you know what? To be honest, sometimes you got to walk out into that garden. And you go, okay, that plant that's just not doing well, it's turned into a fucking weed, and you pull it. And literally, that's what happened to me. After 12 years of having a lineup that hadn't changed, it was, no secret that my one guitar player that departed never wrote a song in 12 years or contributed, and my drummer and I hadn't gotten along in almost 10 years. So I called him one night when I was home, very civil, and said, "Look, man, we don't get along. Music is supposed to be beautiful. Traveling is supposed to be beautiful. Like, what are we doing here? Life is way too short, and I live in the karma. I live in the now." And he said to me, "Yeah, you're right, man. We don't get along." We went and did, Knotfest with Slipknot, a few Australian dates. Came home, and then that was it. No throwdown, no fight, no craziness. But it was built on getting along in the first place. So if we don't get along, why are we making music? Because I'm going to tell you, at least 85% of the bands everyone's listening to right now hate each other.
Yeah.
And side projects get spawned out of it because they hate each other. And you hear it. I mean, I hear it. I know the bands that hate each other, and they put out a new record, and people critically acclaim it. And I listen to the record and I go, I don't feel the vibe one bit. You can tell they hate each other. I watch them on stage. They don't even look at each other for an hour and a half. And I go, how are people, the press in particular, getting behind this, knowing these guys all hate each other? So I don't want a vibe like that. I'll never be in a band like that again. God knows that's what broke up Coal Chamber, you know, is them getting on hard drugs and this and that, and not being pro and not being proper and not treating our fans with respect. If people pay good money not to see you fucked up at a show, they want to see a proper show. And so I've always been that guy, man. And I'm proud to say that right now it's a spectacular time to be in a band, man. You know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and also I think you're absolutely spot on. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's a lack of chemistry on stage. Because yes, you're there to perform for the audience, but if there's no chemistry on stage, there's not going to be any chemistry with the audience.
Oh, but you know, to them there's chemistry because they got paid.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And you know, and I'm not that guy. I've been known to pull off tours because, like, look, we're not getting along right now. Why go out and play shows? Like, that would be ridiculous. Like, people are going to feel that. I'm going to feel that backstage, and then I'm going to go out and try to project positivity and put on some kind of a smile. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And look, if you're in a band and you're listening to this or reading the transcript or whatever, and you're in a band that doesn't get along, sit down with those members and pull them like weeds. You know, and go be happy. Life is so short, man. And, you know, life is just so short to be unhappy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I listened to a lot of the press you did around Trust No One. I mean, I discovered you guys discovered way back on the first album. I think I saw you in Coal Chamber in the Astoria in London.
Oh, I love that show. I have a videotape of that show. Videotape, that'll tell you what that's at. It's on a VHS tape. Dude,
there's nothing fucking wrong with videotape, man. Nothing wrong with that at all.
You know, look, you know, and that thing, it's like, you know, bless it, man. It's like, you know, we came out of nowhere. You know, we used to trade Top Ramen and live in a one-bedroom apartment, Coal Chamber, and we came out of nowhere and, you know, multiple gold records and traveled the world. And I watched that fall apart, man, because of drugs and no one got along and everyone wanted to fight. And I'm like, wait, how did this turn into this? You know, did money turn it into this, or did your drug abuse turn it into this? Like, what is happening? So there's nothing worse than a good band getting torn apart by themselves.
Yeah,
like that is the worst thing possible. And you know, you mentioned you were in a band, and so you totally get it, you know. And there's always kind of that one dude who wants to be a dick, and now I'm the guy who's like, hey, look, you're a dick, get out of here. Like, that's just it, you know.
Yeah.
So there you go.
No, I totally get it, because I actually I was in the biz. I was in a thrash band, in a UK thrash band called Acid Rain back in the day. We put four albums out at the height of thrash, and then split in '91, and then 25 years later, brought the band back. But I'm the only original guy. Unfortunately, couldn't the other four all wanted to do it, but couldn't find time because of families and things like that.
Of course.
And so I've got four new guys, and you know what? The difference is night and day from being those five guys who were forced to be together back in the day to these five guys who choose to be together. Oh man, the difference in vibe is different.
I've said it many times in meetings with bands or other things that I'm doing, other projects, other people I'm working with. If you don't want to be here, leave.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Don't moan.
No one's forcing you to come to rehearsal. No one's forcing you to go on tour. No one's forcing you to make a record. If you don't want to be here and you can't put on a smile, leave. So that's an essential way of running any business, which by all means a band is. Otherwise, obviously, it'll fall apart within a year, 2 or 3. And for me, I'm way in a place in my life where I want to be surrounded with positive people, positive and bad. You said you read press on Trust No One. Before Trust No One came out.
No.
A lot of people in business and a lot of people around me that were absolutely negative. I just couldn't help anymore with. I've given them, hours of counseling about it, and they can't help themselves. So I'll leave. And in business, if you're an asshole, like, I'm not going to work with you. It's just, life is way too short.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Somebody once told me, and it was one of the most truest things I've ever heard. Everybody wants the same thing. Hello, still here? You got me?
Yeah, go ahead.
I
got you.
This guy said to me, look, you know what the one thing everybody is looking for in business? An easy life. If you can make people's life easy, they'll deal with you. If you're an idiot, they fucking won't.
100%, and that's basically it. I've been doing a ton of interviews lately, and the questions are always there. Like, why? What has contributed to you being in this business so long and outlasting so many other artists and bands? And I said, because I probably only have one or two enemies in the world, and they know who they are. And if I ever see them in a room alone, it's on, and that will never change. But I haven't burnt any bridges. There's no bridges burnt. I mean, even the ex-members of any of my bands could pull over on the side of the freeway at 3 a.m. if they needed me and call me, and I would come pick them up. Now, if they don't feel that way about me, that's their problem, because I have no problems. The only reason I parted ways is because you yourself had a problem. You had a drug problem. You had an aggressive problem. You had a drinking problem and were an asshole every night at 3 a.m. That's why we parted ways, not because we had a problem as people or we had a problem in business. And that's just that. I'm not going to let anybody come in the way of me doing my art, right? I've been known to walk away from massive tours. I mean, when I left Coal Chamber, we were on the way to go tour with Kid Rock. I was going to come home with $500,000, and instead, with not a lot of money in my bank account, to tell you the truth, got on an airplane, swiped my card at 30,000 feet, and told them I was never coming back. So money has never been a driving force in art for me. Yeah. It's always been a good time traveling, meeting people, talking to guys like Lee. And I guess it's because of my blue-collar background that I've never gained that egotistical thing that puts me on a higher level, that allows me to not look at things that way anymore. I've looked at guys after having 5 years in the industry and 2 records and literally been like, wait, who are you now? Like, I remember when you were in a van, you used to come over and have a drink or smoke a joint with me. Like, now you won't even come to the show, and I'm 5 minutes away because you got some success. Like, I've watched people change in this business. I refuse to change. I refuse. And my family refuses to let it happen to me, too. My wife would never put up with that shit in a million years. Well, and she just said right now.
I just heard it. Yeah, I heard it. Well, you know what? It's you're a contradiction in terms, man. You're a blue-collar artist. You see that? That, to me, is almost like a contradiction, It's but it's great.
Well, guys that I grew up on and listened to were all that. Guys like Leaving from Fear. Guys like Johnny Cash. And it didn't matter if Johnny had, $5 million in the bank. He was still going to wear black because, until the human condition got better on this planet, he was going to wear black to show, every man how he felt about how people were being treated, And I had a neighbor actually of mine said, Dez, shouldn't you live in a gated community? Like, aren't you tripped out? You live in a blue collar area, and there's people kids playing in the street. And so I said, no, I wouldn't have it any other way, man. Yeah. I raised my kids like that. I didn't send my kids to private schools even though I could. No way. Yeah. I want them to be raised like how I was raised. And actually not how I was raised, because I ran away from home. And, I got beat by my stepfather and ran away from home. And they've had a great life compared to what I had. But I wanted them to have a normal life.
Well, you got to bring your kids up in the world, because that's where they're going to live.
Oh, man. And now, I got 19, 22, 25. They're my best friends, all 3 of my sons. I raised amazing men. I'm a Freemason. I'm getting ready to take several of them to lodge for the first time 2 weeks from now.
Oh, bare breast and all that?
However, whatever you think it is,
right, okay. All right.
I can only speak on certain things, but my point is, they're great men. I've raised great boys, and they're never, they weren't privileged individuals. It was like, Dad, I need a car. It's like, great, whatever you save, I'll match. The way that I was raised. Yeah. And so I guess that this conversation, part and parcel, is the reason why there's so many people also coming to work with us on this record. Why I've maintained who I am without keeping some strange egotistical celebrity status out there as well. And I'm grateful, man. I've got a lot of people behind me that have been listening to me for years, and I'm not going to let them down, and I'm not going to let anybody around me let them down. So you got to be on your P's and Q's if you're going to work with me.
Absolutely, man. Well, look, who knows? One day, maybe we will work together. But right now, I've got to run off and do a comedy show. So,
okay, how fun.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, that's what I did for the 20 years intervening with the band. So
that is the hardest job ever. And let me ask you a question, because we were just talking about this. Going out and making people laugh is the hardest thing in the world. But they say that comedians are actually the most depressed people in real life. So maybe you can shed some light on this. Like, are you that guy? Are you dark and depressed, and that's why you do comedy, or are you just a funny, happy guy, and that's why you want to do comedy?
Well, you know what? I think it's more the latter. I mean, I know plenty of comics who are fucking miserable to be around, and I try not to share a dressing room too often with them. But you know what? That is a bit of a cliche. But yeah, it's like any industry. There's a mixture of those two, and there's a lot of people. In fact, there's more people who are in the middle of that than there is at those two extremes.
I mean, hey, let's put it this way. In music, when you finish a song, even if it's good or it's bad or it was total shit, people will at least applaud. When you finish a joke, if they don't laugh, you're fucked. And you're on your fucking own. You know, you can't. Look, man, that's a brave sport to be in, man. The sport of humor.
Thank you very much.
That's like fucking bullfighting, really. So, cool, good luck to you, man. Man. That's a brave thing.
No worry. Like, after 20 years, man, I it's taken me that long to really enjoy it. But I'd like to say, after 20 years, I'm not shit. So,
well, you know what? Let me tell you something. After 23, 24 years, I'm not shit either. So welcome to the club, brother.
Awesome. We'll do a side project called We're Not Shit.
We're not shit. Yeah, we'll just do punk rock covers.
Done. Okay. All right, man. Look, I'll send you a link when this goes up, and have a lovely day.
Fantastic. I'm going to go finish the day in California here. And look, man, great talking to you.
Cheers. You too, man. Take care.
Take care, bro.
See ya. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you didn't, fuck you. That was a great. It was just really nice way to spend 30-40 minutes chatting to Dez. We finished up on comedy there. He's telling us all about his country stuff. Well, you heard the interview, but it was it was nice to sort of go off on a tangent towards the end there. And I'm sure the side project, We're Not Shit, will be seeing the light of day sometime never. But it was a nice idea, if nothing else. Now this is a music podcast. In case you were wondering if you got this far in and thought, what the fuck is this? This is a music podcast. And it occurred to me the other day that I haven't really been doing my job and talking about what I'm listening to at the moment, and sort of any recommendations or anything like that, because I know a few of you've said what you're listening to and you'd like to know. So anyway, what I've been listening to at the moment, really, really enjoying the new Mastodon album, Emperor of Sand. Love it. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and that's perfectly understandable, but for me it's rocking. It was our album of the tour. It'll always remind me of our tour of the UK, the April Fool's tour. Just some awesome melody lines on there, and I absolutely love it. So for fans of Mastodon, look, I think they're always worth giving a listen to. I wasn't a big fan of the last album, Once More Around the Sun, but I do prefer this one. So there you go. That's my take on it. Another artist who I rather like is Frank Carter. Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes. I loved the album Blossom. I came to it rather late, but this year we've had Modern Ruin, and it's different to Blossom. Blossom is extremely hard and in your face. At times, it's almost like it reminds me a bit of original Rage Against the Machine, but punkier. But it's a great album. And Modern Ruin is a very good album too. It's more indie, definitely more tuneful, but in places just as intense. There's awesome musicianship as there always is, and I really do suggest having a listen to some of Frank's stuff, because both albums I like equally, but for completely different reasons, and I always think that is that's the sign of a seriously good band. So, you know, as I said, give them a whirl. And another album that I'm loving at the moment is the new He Is Legend album. It is absolutely superb, and I wish I could remember the bloody name of it. That is really annoying. Okay, I'm going to go online here. This is incredibly sad, because I've got the album, I've got the CD, I've got the CDs of all albums that I just mentioned, but He Is Legend. I'm really sorry about this. I've got it on my phone as well, but for some reason, it's not. It doesn't recognise the album. It recognises the songs, and it knows it's He Is Legend. Phew, that's it. No, that sounded like phew. Not phew. I found the title. The title is Few, Few. Great band. In fact, I'm probably going to put a song on at the end of the podcast. I'm going to have to do some research, because I'm recording this one in bits. I'm up north at the moment. Yeah, in bits, as in I'm in bits. I've been made redundant. It's all about me. I'm up north at the moment. Just throw this out there. It's absolutely fucking roasting at the moment. You could. But anyway, you don't want to hear about my crotch pot cooking. So by the way, if there's any sort of if this doesn't run smoothly, and if you think this seems a bit, it's because for some reason the cable keeps falling out, and it's really annoying me. But anyway, I will try and get some He Is Legend on the end of the podcast. Few, Few. I don't know how to describe them. Are they metal? Yeah, they are. Are they? I don't know. They're a bit like the Deftones, but they're not like the Deftones. But I'm using the Deftones as a flagpole, because they're kind of like, they're Deftones-y-ish, because Deftones can be damn heavy but damn tuneful. His Legend maybe a little bit more indie, but seriously, I'm gonna put some on the end of the podcast and see what you guys think. Well, I'm going to try and put some at the end of the podcast, I promise. New Living Colour album coming out this year. Not really bothered. And heard the new Dead Cross song. Now, did say to you that I thought some of it would be great, some of it would be shit, and some of it would be, it'd either be great or shit. It's not great. Not great. Let's leave it for the album. But I just hate it when Patton spends all his time doing his doing all his pig squealing and stuff. The guy's got one of the greatest voices ever, and sometimes I just feel like he just throws it in the fucking bin. I'd kill for that voice. Who am I kidding? I'd fucking kill for Lady Gaga's voice. Shall I mention what I think about that again? Because everybody else seems to still be talking about it. Stop it, Howard. Stop it. Most hilarious band name I've seen this month: Unleash the Archers. Yeah, not named after the long-running British radio soap opera. Unleash the Archers. Really? Who turns up to practice and goes, guys, got the band name sorted, it's done, you can stop worrying? Really? What is it? Unleash the Archers. Get out. Get out, fuck off, you're no longer in the band, and by the way, that band you're no longer in, it's never going to be called Unleash the Archers. You want to know why? Because we're not a film, you fucking dick. Unleash the Archers. Seriously. Yeah, fuckhead here will probably end up on a bill with them at some point. I'm like, hey guys, you sounded great. Love the name. So I am a bit of a tosser on. I'm a lot of a tosser. Anyway, aren't we all? So look, the next interview is with David Gehlke. I think, David, if you're listening, I think that's right. If it's not, I apologise. This next interview is with David Gehlke, who has written Damn the Machine, which I have right here. Have a listen. That's me flicking through the pages of a notepad that is next to the telephone. The book's upstairs, but I fucking got it. That's what's most important, all right? I'm about 175 pages into it. That's just a rough, pick that figure out of the air. Could be 161 pages, could be 168. I don't know. I don't care, whatever. But let's say 175, round figure, like it. And it's great. It's absolutely great. It's great because Carl gets his say and the bands get their say, and Carl gets his say and bands get... By the way, Carl is Carl Walterbach, who owned Noise, and you'll hear all about all of this in this next interview. And I've got to thank Joe Denby of the Gully and Joe podcast, The Rock Show. Don't listen to it, all right? Don't listen to it. It's rubbish. It's not. It's great. And they are top lads. And if you've got room for another podcast, make sure you subscribe to theirs. And if you haven't, do it anyway, because they're nice guys and they deserve more listeners. So they don't plug this show, but that's how nice the kind of guy I am, you know? I know you do. So anyway, look, Joe Denby messaged me and was like, oh, you know, have you seen this book? And I hadn't heard of it. But my mind working the way it works, and because I'm always thinking of you guys, I suddenly thought, do you know what? That guy would be a fascinating guy to interview. So I searched, and actually this interview takes place before the book arrives. But I emailed David thinking, oh, I hope I can get this interview, and he emailed me back and went, yeah, I know Acid Rain, yeah, cool, yeah, let's do it. Lovely guy. We've kept on exchanging emails and stuff, and just an absolutely top dude. And we had a really good chat. Here it is. And make sure you get Damn the Machine. It's about 20 quid on Amazon. It's absolutely worth it. It's 500 pages. It's got some awesome pictures in it. What do I sound like? It's got some good pictures in it. And not too many big words. So it should be just fine for my listeners. I'm sorry. I don't know why. Again, insulting people who listen, it's not a good idea. You know I love you. It's just sometimes the mouth says what the mouth wants. The brain, it's somewhere else. This is me and David Gehlke talking a couple of weeks ago. Okay, let's get some more international chat on the way. Could I sound any more Alan Partridge? Hello, David.
How's it going?
Very well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Excellent. Well, thanks for agreeing to do this. Very good of you.
Yeah, no, seriously, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it. You're going to have to tell me your interactions with Carl when our chat concludes.
You mean off the record?
Yeah. If you'd like.
To be honest, they're absolutely minimal. In fact, I can tell you on the record. He rang me up when we sent the Mustiane demo out to tons of people, and Music for Nations sort of were in the process of already drawing a contract by the time I got a call from Carl. When I was still living at home, and I was like 17 at this point.
Right.
And Carl rang up and said, look, we'd be interested in signing you guys. And I said, well, we're about to sign with Music for Nations. And he was like, oh, it's taken me, and there and then he kind of went, well, it's taken me months to get round to listening to the tape. So I was like, well, you snooze, you lose.
You were on what? Was it Under One Flag or was it Music Nations Direct?
It was Under One Flag. It was the.
Okay, so you're on a subsidiary. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, basically, it was a brand more than anything else. Under One Flag was thrash. Rough Justice was kind of hardcore.
Right. I remember Rough Justice, man. I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah, and then there was Food for Thought with Joe Satriani and people like that on.
Wow, a snapshot in time.
Yeah,
that was installed 30 years ago. It's amazing.
It's amazing. There was a point where I was label mates with Joe Satriani and Chuck Schuldiner all at the same time.
Yeah, but Death, right? Chuck Schuldiner, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and and that was around the time of the failed European tour when the band came over without Chuck.
Yeah, that's right. That was around, what was that, Leprosy, I think? They all, like Terry Butler and Rick Ross and those guys came over without Chuck. And
yeah.
That's when they came back, he fired him after that, I think, as legend has it.
Yeah. It was. The label was really pissed at the time because, I remember when they had Spiritual Healing out, and the label manager Andy Black at the time was saying, we're selling shitloads of this, and we'd sell even more if we could only get them to fucking tour.
Yeah, right.
But
that was a tough stretch. Yeah, he was always indifferent about touring. From what I've never spoken with him. Well, obviously he's no longer with us, but I never spoke with him personally. But from what I read, he was always iffy about touring. He was sort of lukewarm on the idea, anyway.
Yeah, very much so. I know Gene Hoglan very well, and he had a great time in Death. He always said to me, it's like, it was really cool, and all the stuff he'd heard about Chuck, he never really understood, and then he had the best time until the last month in the band, which was one of the worst times. So, it was just one of those things, I guess.
Yeah. But what, like we were saying, what a crazy time in metal. At least those were the days,
Oh, mate, yeah, absolutely. We only, our first tour. Well, probably about our first 3 or 4 tours were all on tour buses. It's just which when I talk to bands now, their jaws hit the floor. It's like, you were on a bus. It's like, dude, we thought buses was entry level.
Yeah. Nowadays it costs you a mini fortune to run a bus and get one on tour. You have to take a van.
Well,
these days, if you're not anywhere above mid level.
Yeah, well, I think it's all relative. Do you know what? I think it costs pro rata in relativity. It probably costs the same. It's just that everyone's earning a lot less.
That they are. Yeah, and the competition back then, the UK thrash, a lot of you guys did well, but you got, you guys never blew up the way the scene over here did in America, or the German thrash scene did, but you guys still did well enough to do those type of things, like you and Zentrix and Sabbath, of course, and down the line we go. But,
yeah, absolutely. I'm sat staring at a tour poster, live in concert, 1989, Nuclear Assault, Candlemass, Dark Angel, Acid Rain.
What a bill, huh?
Yeah, I know. Across that was through Germany, and that was the proper Messiah Marcolin Candlemass days as well.
Yeah, right, when they were at their peak.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, everybody was at their peak all the time back then.
Yeah, you lucked out. You were there for all that. I'm only 34, so I was a wee bit too young for that stuff. But it makes me. I'm so green with envy when people tell me about these things. I wish time travel was available so I can go back and be 18 years old and actually live all that stuff.
Yes, I note you wish time travel was available as opposed to you wish you were 47.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand that, man. That's really interesting. I didn't realize you were, in inverted commas, so young. So what? Obviously, we'll get onto the book and all the rest of it, obviously, because that's why we're talking. But what first attracted you to the scene, and how did you end up becoming so immersed in it that you end up writing a book on a label that was probably irrelevant by the time you were a teenager?
Yeah, it's interesting. I got into metal when I was, I think, 10 or 11, so I just missed that cutoff, especially over here in the States when nu metal got popular. And so, when Korn and Limp Bizkit got really popular, but I got into it when Megadeth, Metallica, Pantera, Sepultura, Slayer were still around, so they became my favorite bands. And so when the nu metal boom happened, I hated those bands. I hated Korn, I hated Limp Bizkit, all those bands. And because I was what you want to call a tried and true metal guy, I just started to work my way backwards. You start at the top with the most obvious bands, Then, you go through Maiden and Priest, and that leads you to power metal. Power metal leads you to German thrash. German thrash leads you to UK thrash, leads you to death metal. So I just worked my way backwards. And over time, it's just been a lifelong obsession of mine. And then I think I was around 18 or 19, and on a whim, I just sent a guy an email. It was a small magazine here in the States called Throat Culture. I emailed the guy saying, "Are you looking for writers? I'd love to, contribute." And sure enough, he agreed. And that's how I got my start. And ever since then, which was about 2001 or 2002, I have been writing for zines and magazines and just really been immersed in the whole scene. But yeah, to your point, when I really got into the scene around 2001, 2002, noise was just a total afterthought. We only knew of noise over here really for what they used to do, not what they were currently doing. And over time, as I got older, the more I got into Halloween and Celtic Frost and Creator and Sabbath and Skyclad and those type of bands, then you start to learn a little bit more about those bands and their history with the label. And the one thing that really piqued my interest was Tom G. Warrior put out a book in the year 2000 that really detailed Hellhammer's early career as well as Celtic Frost's career. And throughout that whole book, Tom G. Warrior just lampoons Carl the entire time. So then the little light bulb goes off in your head, like, wow, what's up with this label, Noise Records? And then you start to learn more about Halloween. Didn't particularly enjoy their time with Noise, same with Creator. It's like, what? How are all these great bands who have done so much all have the same sentiment about one label? And so that's what really got me interested in Noise Records. And you may ask this question coming up, but how did I end up doing the book? Was that Carl, after selling Noise in 2001, he took some time off away from the scene, but then he reemerged in 2010 as a band manager, and I kept on seeing his name associated with the bands he was managing, and I just took a chance one day, and I sent him an email at random saying, "Hey, I'm a longtime fan of your label. I like the band you're currently managing, but I'm huge fans of the stuff you used to do. Would you like to set up an interview?" And he agreed. And he and I spoke for about 2 or 3 hours one day, and I remember getting off Skype with him, then going to my wife saying, "This guy's remarkable. He's an amazing storyteller. He'd be perfect to do a book about based on his experiences in the music industry as well as his bands." And so that ultimately is what led me to ask Carl for permission to create the authorized Noise story. And he turned me down a handful of times because I don't think he was comfortable with the idea of an American doing it, one that he didn't know, as well as he didn't really have a set idea on how I was going to do the book. And so eventually I came up with a good proposal on how to do it, with detailing his background as a squatter in Berlin, as well as his early days running the AGR, Aggressive Rock Production label. Then that, of course, led to Noise, and he agreed with the proposal, but I also had the one term of the deal was that we had to interview his bands as well, and to Carl's credit, he agreed to doing that. And Carl went into the whole thing knowing that his bands were going to badmouth him.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to say nice things about him. So credit where credit is due, because that's a very egoless thing, agreeing to have a book written about your label, but also knowing that the bands on the same token aren't going to have exactly positive things to say. So anyone can say whatever they want about Carl, but at least from my standpoint, the creation of the book showed me that he was really, he cast his ego to the side for the sake of telling the story of his label.
And well, that's interesting. I mean, I as you know, I've ordered a copy of the book. I haven't read it yet. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait. Well, I'll have to wait because it's in the post, because I ordered the physical version as opposed to the Kindle version. One thing I've got to ask is, and I don't want to spoil, I don't want to give anything away from the book, but is there any kind of regret the way he dealt with bands, what he did, because ultimately when everybody is slagging you off, there comes a point where you go, well, actually maybe it's me, not them.
Yeah, that's something I thought of quite a bit throughout the creation of the book, because there were a handful of bands. Let's get this out. There were a bunch of bands who did have positive experiences with Carl. I don't want to cast it as to where everyone had a negative experience on Noise Records. Running Wild enjoyed their time with the label. Voivod did as well. Two of the ones I could think of off the bat. Corner, they had their ups and downs. For the most part, I would say it was a pretty positive relationship. But in terms of regrets on Carl's ends, I don't think he had too many regrets from a personal standpoint. He saw it as a business enterprise. He never invested in his bands the way Brian Slagle does of Metal Blade, or maybe Marcus Steiger does of Nuclear Blast, meaning that Carl was never friends with any of his bands. Yeah. They weren't going out to dinner. They weren't, being invited to birthday parties or things like that. Carl saw it as a business first type of deal, and I think that's where a lot of the resentment stems from. These bands were really young. They were looking to get into the industry. They were looking for someone to guide them, and that's just not Carl. And that's not in his personality, and he'd be the first one to tell you that.
Right.
And so the way when you're dealing with a guy, and Howard, of course, you've dealt with label people throughout your career as well, you're dealing with a guy who's very, I don't know if I want to say cold, but he's very, very straightforward, matter of fact, take it or leave it.
Well, you mean he's German?
Yeah. Right, yes.
Yeah.
So you have that aspect to it as well. But let's not forget a lot of the bands on label were German too.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's just that while you were describing that, I was thinking, this sounds like every German I know.
Yeah, right. And so with that, if you're a young band and you're struggling, you're not making a lot of money, yet you are selling albums, you're going on tours, you're making a lot of fans, yet the contract that you signed without reading it, which unfortunately a lot of bands admitted to me.
Yeah.
It's not paying you in accordance to how you think you should be. Yeah, that's where the resentment's going to come in.
Yeah.
And over time, that's where a lot of that built. I mean, Celtic Frost is a prime example. They were critical darlings once To Make Ethereon and Into Pandemonium rolled around. I mean, of course, early Hellhammer, everyone hated them. The critics did at least. They slagged them endlessly. But, Celtic Frost were doing solid numbers. They were drawing a fair amount of people at their shows, yet they didn't have anything to show for it. Same, if we want to go a step further, we can look at Halloween, who were the biggest selling noise band. They were the first noise band to sell 7 figures, and they still weren't making a great deal of money. So they thought, well, hey, we're selling, quite a few records. We're selling out shows. Why aren't we being paid in accordance to that? And so automatically, of course, that's human nature. You are going to resent the person who is in charge of your own fate. So really, that's really the crux of why there's so much animosity towards Carl, was the fact that he wasn't a friendly, nice business guy. He was a very, very straightforward, business first type of label owner.
Yes, and to be fair, Halloween's problems were exacerbated by Rob Smallwood coming along and deciding to sign them to EMI, despite the fact they were still in a record contract.
See, you didn't even read the book, and you nailed it. That's exactly what happened. That's a big chunk of one of the chapters. Carl was terrified, and once Keeper One had its run, once they finished the touring cycle, Carl was terrified of a major label coming along and stealing Halloween out from under him. And he was already worried about it around 87 and 88. So as the story goes, Rod Smallwood, Iron Maiden's manager, comes along, is very interested in Halloween because they're sort of seen as the unofficial successor to Maiden, the band that would carry melodic metal into the 90s.
Yeah.
And their contract, Halloween's contract with Noise, was pretty iron-bound. It was very difficult to get out of, which explains why very few, if any, Noise bands were able to get out of their deal.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, Rod signed them to EMI, even though Halloween was still bound to their Noise deal for another 2 or 3 albums. And Carl took legal action, and that started the domino effect. You can start with, Kai Hansen leaving the band in late 1988, and then later in 1989 when Halloween signed to EMI, that's what started their downfall. So yeah, bingo. Halloween did exasperate their own situation, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I remember all this at the time. I know our manager was friends with Rod Smallwood, so we talked about it at the time, and he was saying it's nuts, it's absolutely crazy. But I mean, I'm a Yorkshireman, and so is Rod Smallwood, and I know Yorkshiremen like Rod Smallwood, and it's like, I don't fucking care if you sign to another record label, you fucking sign into EMI, and that's the end of it. And and it came back to bite everyone in the ass. But as is so often the case in these situations, the real losers are the band themselves. Yes. EMI doesn't lose anything. They just have to wait a little while for the band to get through with the legal dealings. Noise don't lose anything because, well, they lose the band, but they're going to get financially compensated anyway.
It's true. Carl definitely get compensated, very much so. As he told it to me, the initial offer he gave to Sanctuary/Rob Smallwood was astronomical, but it was astronomical on purpose because Carl was projecting what Halloween would eventually become had they capitalized on Keeper of the Seven Keys Part 1 and 2. He was thinking album number 4 would sell upwards of maybe 5 to 6 million units, so he asked for a figure what he thought would be in line with that.
Yeah. And
Sanctuary balked at it at first, and so a few more months ensued of legal wrangling, and eventually they settled on a figure that Carl did get paid. Carl/Modern Music, which was Noise's parent company, got paid out pretty well. And you're right. Noise may have lost Halloween, but they did at least get something in return for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and it would have given Carl a financial footing that he wouldn't have had before as well. Yeah, exactly. Which in theory enables him to take a few more chances with the label as well. And going back to what you said, actually, I mean about bands not signing. I'm on this podcast. I've been a real advocate of, well, ultimately, if you get screwed by a label, it's your fault. When we signed to Under One Flag, I was 17 years old, but I went and got a music lawyer to look over our contract before we signed it. I mean, and I was 17 years old, and I'm not a fucking genius, but I'm not an idiot either. And you don't sign contracts, whether it's for it's even at that age, you're aware of the stories of people signing record contracts that they shouldn't do. And, it absolutely boggles my mind that, that people can, who are desperate to get their band, into the public eye, are so willing to sign absolutely anything without even, reading it properly. And then years later, complaining about it.
That was a recurring theme throughout the book. All of Noise's key bands, Gravedigger, and Celtic Frost, and Halloween, and Creator. Maybe the one exception may have been Running Wild, actually, because Rolf Kasperek said to me in the book that they actually played hardball with Carl and negotiated their deal to be a little bit more favorable with the band. But the quotes scattered throughout the book are basically all the same. We never bothered to read our contract, or we knew shit about record deals. Well, then sure enough, 5-6 years down the line, when those bands were having success on Noise, they can only look at their initial contract that they signed and see that the terms of the deal, that they were pretty standard for the time, as Carl will tell you, but by no means were these bands making a great deal of money in accordance with their record sales. So yeah, I mean, you said it best. These bands all could have hired a lawyer, or at least found somebody to look at it, but sometimes the idea of getting out of your small hometown and making an album sort of supersedes the idea of actually taking a step back and having someone look at your contract.
Yeah, I get that, and youthful enthusiasm and all the rest of it, but by the same token, as you said there, you've got people saying, we knew shit about contracts, then might be an idea to not fucking sign it until you do.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, that's a prime example. And that's what Carl will tell you too. I mean, none of these bands, he'll tell you, he'll be the first one to tell you, none of these bands were forced to sign with Noise Records. Carl gave them what was a standard deal at the time, and these bands signed.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's I'm ultimately, look, I haven't been in a position where I've signed a contract that's enslaved me, or at least given away my given away rights to music for years and all the rest of it, and I'm sure I'd feel very bitter about it and all the rest of it. By the same token, I'd like to think if I was in that position, I'd be self-introspect. I'd have enough self-awareness and be introspective enough to realise that ultimately it's my fault.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these bands will tell you that they rushed into things too soon, and that they probably would admit they would have done things a little bit differently had they. I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, right? So. You can't go back, unfortunately, but lessons learned. The old adage is if you can get through your first music industry contract, you're well on your way. And thankfully, a lot of these noise bands did make it through their initial noise contracts, and then they, of course, went on to other labels. Very few of them actually re-signed with noise.
Well, to be honest as well, I mean, I was just thinking about it when you were talking there, and I was thinking, well, I'm sat here saying, I got my record contract looked over and blah, 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 blah. But by the same token, our career lasted 3 albums, whereas all of the bands that you've mentioned, they may have had really bad deals initially, but they're all still going, they've all kept going, and they've all got pretty respectable careers. I'd certainly swap my place with them.
Yeah.
So,
right.
We didn't get fucked over, but we also didn't get the kind of success that any of them did in the end. So I guess it does long term, it's actually worked out okay.
Yeah, remarkably so. And I think that's attributed to a few things. Number one, these bands are just great in themselves. I mean, this goes without saying, Halloween and Creator and Running Wild and Celtic Frost, who are now Triptychon. We can go Gravedigger, even though they broke up, then reformed in 1993.
Yeah.
They did it on their own merit. I mean, their music has stood the test of time, but also attributes to the fact that Carl knew what he was doing when he was signing bands. He had an eye for talent. I mean, he often had a gut instinct. He can listen to a band for maybe a few minutes, and he could tell you if it was worth signing or not. And I think that sort of attributes to why a lot of Carl's key noise signings are still around today. And it's sort of unprecedented if you think about the independent labels that came up through the 80s. At least in the European side, that Noise's track record is probably better than all of them, because Roadrunner really didn't hit its stride until the 1990s. SPV was okay in the 80s. Century Media and Nuclear Blast really didn't get going until the 90s either, and that leaves Noise. And so I've always clung to this statement that Noise was probably the best independent European metal label of the 1980s.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll add into that, Music for Nations, Under One Flag, etc. Because ultimately, they were very much about just licensing product that was coming over from Combat. So, it was just a bit of a licensing house. I mean, every album got the same routine, full page advert, yada, yada, yada. But the buzz was coming from the States, and so it's literally a case of, well, all you need to do is make sure this is in the shops and people will buy it. Whereas, they'd admit this themselves, but Music for Nations, track record when it came to actually signing acts directly to the label was absolutely abysmal. And I include my own band in that. So ultimately, and I also take it as a compliment, because he tried to sign us. So who knows what would have happened.
Who knows? You're right.
But I know I mean, I'm very good friends with Andy Sneap, and we've spoken about Carl in the past as well, and Andy, is much like myself. He's a bit of a wheeler and dealer, a bit of a businessman himself, obviously. And as he says now, he'll always say, "Look, it was our fault. We should have got the bloody contract looked at by somebody who they did have their contract looked at, but it was by a lawyer, not by a musical lawyer."
Yeah, that's exactly what Andy told me in the book, and Andy was just a great guy to talk to, very forthcoming about Sabbath's career. Yeah, he said it himself. He was barely old enough to sign his Sabbath contract. They brought it. I think you guys have the musicians union over
That's
there.
Right. It's all coming back to me now. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had the musicians union look at it, and they told him, "Don't sign this." But he said that no one else was calling about Sabbath. No one else had taken interest. He had solicited them to all the other metal independents, and Carl was the only one to pick up the phone and give them a call. And so that was sort of his rationale for signing the early Sabbath deal at the time, was the fact that no one else was there but Noise, and the musicians union wasn't too keen on the deal, but Sabbath went ahead and signed it anyway. So yeah, Sabbath would be a good example of that. And again, another band whose legacy has only increased as the years gone by, but when they were, and you know this firsthand, Howard, when they were going in the late 80s, it was tough for them. It was tough being a UK thrash band at the time. For as great as their albums were, they were always in the shadow of some of the German and American bands.
Well, our second ever gig was supporting Sabbath, and
nice.
And the weird thing is we always got along really well. I mean, I went to Andy Sneap's surprise 18th birthday party.
Nice.
We always got along really well, and I guess it was because there was a kinship there because they were the absolute opposite of what we were. We didn't give a shit and we just had a laugh, whereas they were all about the seriousness and the costumes and everything else. So I think it was kind of like, at that age, when you mix with your peers, there is always an air of, but they're the competition. And you keep your cards close to your chest. Because we were both the opposite ends of the scale, we just got on as friends because we just didn't see each other as peers because we were so massively different from each other.
You really were different, and that's part of the reason what drew Carl to Sabbath was their image. They had this pagan black.
Well, it's very German. It's very German.
Yeah.
I mean, they had that German kind of sound as well.
They really did too, especially with Martin's vocals because he's got that monosyllabic bark.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's totally, and only Martin Walkyier sounds like Martin Walkyier. You can pick him out from, 800 vocalists in a lineup easily. And that's what drew Carl to Sabbath. The imagery, Carl was always in the bands who had a good image behind them. And Sabbath definitely had that. And then when you combine it with Andy's riffing, he's an unbelievable guitar player and songwriter. And Martin's lyrics, too. He's one of the most brilliant lyricists in all of metal. And that really made Sabbath truly ahead of their time. But like you were saying, it was really tough for them to get ahead in that climate.
Yeah, I mean, we were, we did a few European tours. They did more than us because obviously their label was based in Germany, but we got a lot of really good UK stuff, which they didn't get because they were on a label in Germany. It's kind of like, it's ups and downs, swings and roundabouts. And I mean, the UK scene all disappeared in about a month. I mean, we split up. I think Sabbath split up the week after that, and Onslaught split up the week after that. And it was, the whole thing was done in about a month.
Yeah, and Noise had another UK thrash band. Remember DAM, Destruction and Mayhem?
They supported us on our. We did an album called Obnoxious, and they supported us on our headline UK tour, which was
nice.
Like about 30 dates or something. So yeah, know them very, very well.
Yeah, another good band who, again, sort of got lost in the shuffle. I think their second album, what was Inside Out, was a little bit better than the first one. But yeah, you're totally right about the UK thrash scene. It really, between you guys, Onslaught, Sabbath, Damn, Zentrix, it never quite took off the way it should have.
Well, again, as this conversation goes on, as you'll find, I have a theory on everything. And I've got to be honest with you. Ultimately, we were playing a style of music which originated in America, and America has a history of not buying into UK bands playing American music. The band,
I can abide by that. Sure,
the UK bands that break in the States are people like Oasis and Coldplay, stuff that's quintessentially English.
Yes.
And that's what you want from your English musicians. You want them to be English. When the Brit starts out trying to sound like Americans, it's like, no fucking way. No British...
You don't want anything to do with it, right?
Yeah, no big British rappers breaking it in the States? No, because rap is American, and Brits rapping sounds fucking stupid to Americans. You
can even think of the most recent crop of thrash bands that did really well in your country, like Evil and Savage Messiah and those type of bands. They've had great success in the UK, but over here they have not quite done as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and like I say, even to this day, and I think it's it makes sense to me. I mean, also, as I've often said, you look at the big four in the States, and then you look at the big four in the UK, which would be us, Zentrix, Sabbath, and Onslaught.
Onslaught, right?
I mean, they don't really compare, do they? Let's be honest.
Yeah, there's quite the difference there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I've said before, as listeners will be sick of hearing, but the biggest breakthrough songs that the three of those big four had, Us was a cover version of Hanging on the Telephone, Zentrix was a cover version of Ghostbusters, and Onslaught was a cover version of Let There Be Rock. I think that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, wow, that's true. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, well, yeah, pretty much. I think that's the UK thrash scene in a kind of like, in a bubble there. But don't get me wrong, we had great fun, as we said earlier, and Onslaught have now been going second time round since they reformed. They've now been going longer than they were around originally.
That's right, yeah. Onslaught is still around. They come over here every now and then, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Last time with Neil Turbin, but let's not talk about that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I read somewhere. I didn't want to. I was going to do some. I was going to do a little bit of research on you, and then I thought, well, no, I don't want to be. I don't want to be led by stuff I've seen you talk about elsewhere, and just let everything develop as it is. But one thing I did realize, or I did read, was that you spoke with Carl every fortnight for 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, I talked to Carl every Sunday, which was 10 a.m. my time, 4 p.m. In Berlin. Carl would go to an internet cafe in Berlin, and I would give him a topic related to the book, and I would just let him go. I mean, he's one of those people that has constant dialogue, has a story for everything, has an anecdote for everything, which makes it perfect to do a book for, right? You want someone who can expand on stories, who has a sharp memory, who has a great wit, and Carl has all of those things.
Hey, never mind a book. I'm thinking podcast interview.
Yeah, oh my goodness, he'd be perfect for your podcast. Yeah, he's got millions of stories. Probably some of the ones that I even had to leave some stuff out of the book because I would run out of space, or the book would end up being, it's 504 pages now. It probably could end up being a good 700 pages had I included everything.
Right.
But Carl and I would talk every Sunday, and I would email him in advance, say, okay, here's what I think we should talk about. And that's really what the foundation of the book is. As readers will see, the foundation of the book is really Carl, but it's complemented throughout with his bands. It's almost equal distribution, although the first few chapters are about Carl's early life as well as his forays into punk. But really, it focuses on Carl's thoughts on his bands as well as his thoughts on the music industry too, which is a really big aspect, which is sort of an overlooked thing. People don't realize how much of that behind-the-scenes stuff impacts how the scene plays out. And especially with a label like Noise in the 80s, who was swimming upstream against all the big major labels, many of whom wanted to sign Carl and sort of absorb them, to put them up underneath their larger imprint. But that's really what the foundation was for it. And the book wouldn't have been possible had Carl not been such a great conversationalist and storyteller. I mean, he's fantastic with that regard. I mean, you almost get like a history lesson. I know that sounds like a cliche. You almost get a history lesson when you sit down with him and listen to talk. I mean, we had some chats that lasted hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours, just because he would find something that he remembered and he would just expand upon it. It was really great. And of course, on the flip side, of course, there was a lot of transcribing on my end too. So I got very used to hearing the sound of Carl Ulrich Walter Bach's voice over the span of 2.5 years, but it was well worth it.
Wow, that's some serious dedication. Some serious dedication.
Sometimes I surprise myself in doing it. It was quite a bit of work, but once you see the end result, it's like when you finish an album, and you've done that many times. You finish an album, you think about all the work, the rehearsals, the songwriting, all that goes into it. It's the same deal with a book. You think about all the interviews and all the writing you did and editing, and then once you actually have the finished copy in your hand, it's like, oh, that's why I spent my Saturday night transcribing an hour of Carl and I's conversations.
So was there anybody who didn't take part that you would have liked to take part?
Yeah, actually, we already spoke about him, which would be Rod Smallwood. So Rod would have been great. Rod would have been great for the book. For Halloween, first off, being that he managed them, right as they were at their peak, as well as was responsible for getting them off of Noise. But he also ran Sanctuary Music Group, who ended up buying Noise in the year 2001.
Yeah.
And so, you have that aspect to it. But I was told by his people that Rod does not do any non-Iron Maiden related interviews. And so, which was a bit of a bummer. It really would have been great to have, Carl versus Rod Smallwood, two industry titans still go head to head on one another. But that was a bummer that we didn't get Rod, and that was a disappointment. The other would be Terry B, who was the front woman for Manhole and Tura Satana toward the later part of the 90s when Carl was interested in nu metal.
Yeah.
She does not have particularly rosy recollections of her time with Noise and felt she could not be objective going on the record when talking about Noise records as well as Carl, so she declined. But outside of that, Howard, I somehow got everyone. It was a lot of emails back and forth, a lot of hunting people down, tracking them down, convincing them, telling them, this is my project. This is not a Carl Ulrich Walterbach project. Carl's involved, but he has no say in the editing process. He's not getting any of the royalties. This is 100% a project written by myself. And, it took some time with certain people. Tom G. Warrior was one of them. Tom also turned me down a few times initially, but out of the blue, about a year ago, actually, he emailed me and said, I've been thinking about it lately, and I actually would like to be interviewed for the Noise Records book. And Tom and I ended up speaking for about 3 hours.
Oh,
which ended up becoming one of my favorite chats for the book.
I bet you were celebrating like you scored a touchdown when that email came in.
Yeah, oh my goodness. It was just disbelief. You know how you get one of those emails and you have to do a double take? I think he was very casual about it. So he asked, what's the status of the book? And I said, well, we're almost done, but we're not quite done. We're still missing a few things. And that was the truth. May of last year, I was probably about 90% done. And I was ready to proceed without Tom. I had enough quotes from the other members of Celtic Frost to complete the 2 Celtic Frost chapters. But then once you add Tom in, it required a total rewrite of those 2 chapters, obviously, to fit our conversation in. So I was astonished, and he was great. He obviously doesn't like Carl. There's still some very hostile feelings there. But, his insight on the creative process behind the Celtic Frost albums, as well as just coming up, being a young metal band in Switzerland where no one understood them, no one cared about them, everyone hated them. Him just talking about those type of things was simply remarkable. So it was a great honor to talk to Tom G. Warrior. Absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. And funnily enough, going back to what you said about Rod Smallwood, I just that sounds like a very stock line that no interviews other than Iron Maiden. I just wonder if. I don't know. I just wonder if he looked at the situation. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. And if I was Rod Smallwood and you approached me about Halloween and about and Noise and all the rest of it, I would probably turn an interview down as well, because I don't think I'd come out of it very well.
Yeah, and that's. I did my best to represent Rod. Carl obviously does not have very kind feelings about Rod, so I had to approach it a little bit delicately there. But what I try to do is play it down the middle. I try to take it from Rod's standpoint, that he saw a band who were very unhappy with their label, who he saw could really add a lot of weight to the Sanctuary Music Group roster, or the Sanctuary Management roster, I should say. And I just included what Rod's motives were, and those were pretty clear cut. And those were to get Halloween off of Noise Records and onto a major label, which of course would have been EMI. And Rod had a long-standing relationship with them because of Iron Maiden. And it would have been great to have Rod. But yeah, you're right. Maybe that there could have been some trepidation in talking to me about it, based on the fact that he did lose the court case. They did lose the Carl. Noise Records was victorious in that court case. So maybe that's where some of that played in. It's
funny as well that you say that Carl doesn't have he doesn't have great feelings towards Rod and all the rest of it because of what happened. And it's funny because I was just thinking, funnily enough, Carl, in that situation, Carl becomes in a similar situation to where the bands are coming from who were on Noise. This is basically Carl having one of his bands stolen from him and being signed by somebody else, and it's like, oh right, so Carl's not used to getting fucked over. He's used to doing the fucking. So
yeah, many people brought that up to me, sort of the irony of the fact that, here was a tough business guy dealing with Rod Smallwood may even be a more tough and hard-edged business guy. Like you mentioned, how he's a Yorkshireman, so it's like, I don't give a shit. These guys are signed to a multi-album deal with a German record company. I'm taking them anyway.
Yeah.
And but to Carl's credit, he fought them tooth and nail over it. Sanctuary may have saw Noise as this little small fish in a very large pond, but Noise is luckily for them, their accounting was up to date. They performed an audit on all of Noise's books. All their filings were in good shape. So when an audit did happen, it did actually show that Halloween wasn't losing as much money as they initially thought, and all those things played into the court case. And sure enough, that's how Carl came out victorious.
Well, absolutely, and like I said, it's even at the time. I spoke to our manager about it, and he was like, he said it's fucking insane. You do not sign a band who are signed to a label and in the middle of a contract. You don't just swoop in and sign them to another label. I mean, it's the equivalent of bigamy.
Yeah, the irony of the whole situation was that Carl had a premonition that someone was coming for Halloween, so he signed a 4-band licensing deal with EMI Germany. So there's a key term there, EMI Germany, not EMI Worldwide. And so the irony of the fact that Rod was trying to take Halloween on over to EMI globally when they were already on EMI Germany really sort of sullied the matter even more. So that whole situation, and like we talked about earlier, I mean, Halloween were on the rocket ship to the top. They had everything going for themselves. They had great songs. They had a great image. They were great live. I mean, for all intents and purposes, had stayed on the straight and narrow, maybe kindness and sticks around, and they keep it together, I mean, who knows how big they could have been. I mean, I argue in the book that it's very possible, at least, they could have hovered around at least Scorpions level popularity. I'm not saying they would have overtaken the Scorps, but at least they probably could have come somewhere near that, because they had the catchy songs. I mean, they were a metal band, but some people argue the Scorpions were a metal band too, and they're probably more hard rock than that. But Halloween could have came close had they kept it all together.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that a massive kink was put in their career, because they basically had their career was on hold for a long time whilst all of this got sorted out.
18 months, from 1990, all of 1990 through middle of 1991,
Yeah, and
imagine being a fast-rising band. You have all these things going for yourself, and you're stopped. I mean, they couldn't even release Pink Bubbles Go Ape in Germany. The courts prohibited it. So they couldn't even release their own album. Their 4th album was barred from being released in Germany based on the simple fact that there was litigation going on between Noise and Sanctuary.
Yeah, and it's just, those were crucial years as well, not just in their career, but when you look at what was happening in metal and what happened in metal a couple of years later, that was the key time where they would have got a foothold in in the metal scene, and it really, really harmed them.
It definitely did. I agree. Yeah, very detrimental to their career. But to their credit, they eventually rebounded. I mean, Pink Bubbles Go Ape and Chameleon didn't sell well, and EMI eventually did, dropping them. But once they got Andy Darris in the band in 1994, they righted the ship, and they were able to keep going.
Yeah. Well, now, in my hand, as we speak, I have 2 3-disc re-releases. One of Voivod Killing Technology and one of Voivod Dimension Hatros.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Yes.
Yes, just arrived a couple of days ago. Now, what's Carl's involvement in these?
That's very interesting. You bring up the BMG reissues, because I think it was about summer of 2015. I had got an email from a guy named John Richards who worked at Sanctuary when Noise was under Sanctuary, and John was one of the product managers there, and he sent me an email saying, "Hey David, just want to let you know that BMG now has acquired the Universal Music Group catalog, which underneath it was Sanctuary's catalog, and underneath Sanctuary's catalog is Noise Records."
Yeah.
And so they had plans to start reissuing some of the key releases, starting with the Best Of series in 2016. And I was simply stunned, because all along the while, and talking to the bands and other industry people, everyone told me, yeah, nothing's ever going to happen with the Noise Records catalog. Don't even bother. It's just going to sit there and not do anything.
I've heard I'd heard the same thing. Purely as a fan, I'd asked over the years of, whenever I've bumped into any of these bands and stuff, and they'd always said the same thing, which is, forget it.
Yeah, that's all I heard too when I started the book in 2014, and I was stunned, and I actually entered into discussions with BMG on them perhaps taking part in the book, like not being an authorized BMG release. But over time, it just didn't feel right. The people there, they're great people, especially some of the product managers there. But it was the inclination was that they wanted their lawyers to look at the book in order for it to be an authorized BMG book. And I don't know, it just didn't seem right based on some of the stuff Carl says throughout the book and some of the things that are discussed. I mean, there's nothing really bad about BMG per se in the book. It just didn't seem right, something that I spent so much time on, than being edited by people who may not have as much interest in it as I would. And so that's where the cooperation ended. I'm still in touch with a lot of the BMG folks today, just by fact that they're releasing, the noise bands, and it's great to stay in touch. I actually sent them a copy of the book last week. I think they have it by now. But yeah, they have asked Carl to take part in some of the reissues. I think he did some interviews last year when they started the campaign, so he took part in those, and he may have helped them track down some old tapes and old masters and files and whatnot, and maybe a few liner notes. So yeah, I mean, he was. I think he's sort of ambivalent about the whole thing. I think the bands are more excited than he is. Yeah, I think Carl mentally at least is tapped out on some of those bands, but at least for the bands, because Michel from Voivod did the book's artwork, and when I told him that BMG was going to do stuff with the Voivod catalog, he was over the moon. I mean, he's been waiting for years to do something with Killing Roar and Killing Technology and Dimension Hatros, and for him to be able to do that was just a great thrill for him. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I first heard that these were the rumblings of these. I had a sit down for a good 2 hours with Dan from Voivod.
Of course, Chewy.
Yeah, and he kind of he said this. He said, look, there's a chance these things might actually be might actually come out. There's we've heard that there's possibility that we might finally actually get some reissues. And I was just like waiting patiently, and then in 2016 when the best of came out, I was like, Christ, I hope this is not it.
Well, the best ofs were a curious choice by them. I think that was sort of done to ease these bands back to the marketplace, which I can understand on one level, but the other level, they probably could have just started with the regular reissues of the single album. Some of these bands are big enough. I don't know how many people actually buy best ofs anymore with the advent of streaming.
Absolutely. I think it was classic major label marketing ploy that has absolutely no place in metal, and it was fucking stupid and a waste of time.
Yeah, that's coincidentally that's exactly how Carl felt about it. You basically echoed his words there precisely.
Yeah, it's just like, well, if you think you need to bring a best of out of Voivod, so people know who they are, what the hell are you reissuing old albums for? It's kind of it's weird. It just seems totally counterintuitive, the two things. But that's major labels. They've never quite got metal, and it's quite nice to see some things haven't changed.
Yeah, the nice thing is they've gotten all the bands involved. I know Away, Voivod was involved with those. Mille Creator's up next, and from what the BMG staff told me, it was that he was heavily involved in the whole thing, which is how it should be. I think the same was going to apply for the upcoming Celtic Frost reissues. Tom G. Warrior will be involved heavily with those too. So yeah, at least they're getting the band's involvement, which is what a lot of people want anyway.
No, it's awesome, and I've read all these Voivod reissues from cover to cover, and I'm making my way through the discs. I've only had them, like I said, since Thursday, and it's quite obvious that this is something that the band. In fact, my good friend Malcolm Dome wrote the sleeve notes.
Yeah, of course, Malcolm. Yeah, Malcolm's great.
Oh, He's great. He's on this podcast more than I am. He's a great dude, and it's obvious that these things have been put together with the band's input because they're a labour of love, and they've been really well researched, and the content is painstakingly researched and been remastered, and these things have been. I think the word is curated beautifully, and I'm looking forward to getting my creator remasters as soon as they can post them out.
Yeah, I am too. Hopefully, fingers crossed, from what they told me, they have a package coming over here to the States for me. So I will be watching my post office box very eagerly for them to come in.
Well, they're amazingly priced as well. A friend of mine picked up the Dimension Hatros triple disc for £9.99.
See, that's how it should be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Overpriced these. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, totally. I mean, despite the whole best of thing, I'm willing to overlook that. It's clear that someone actually knows what they're doing, and like you say, it's awesome that the bands are involved in these as well.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think the ones that everyone's really waiting for are the Celtic Frost remasters. I mean,
of course, yeah, those will be great.
That's the big one. That's the big one. Do you happen to know which albums they're doing?
I believe they're doing the primary three, which would be Morbid Tales, then To Make Ethereon, then Into the Pandemonium, and maybe Vanity Nemesis. As usual, Cold Lake will be left out of the whole bit. But I think those four will probably be the ones they'll end up doing.
That's awesome. So, having done this labour of love and got this book out, any plans to do anything else?
Yeah, I'm actually getting a little restless here because the Noise book was so all-consuming. I think I wrapped it up in January or February of this year, at least the final design aspects, working with our design team with it. I'm still doing press, which is great, of course, but the actual function of writing right now, I have my own site that I do and write for, but doing a book is a whole other thing together. So yeah, I am getting a little restless. My publisher, Iron Pages, and I have been exchanging ideas back and forth about what to do next. I don't have anything confirmed. We have a few ideas floating about. One would be of a pretty big German band. The other is of a Danish band. So we'll see. It really just depends on getting these people to agree to do it and them willing to put in the time. And thankfully now I have one book under my name now, so people can maybe take me seriously when I say, hey, how do you feel about doing a band biography? Because doing the Noise book was pretty daunting at first. But once I got Carl committed and got the rest of the bands, it all came together. So I'm hoping this next project will be a little more simple to do. There was a lot of work and a lot of back and forth. A lot of people being wary of me doing the Noise book, but thankfully it got completed. So I'm hoping that my next book project, whatever that may be, will be a little bit easier to do.
Well, I think it's an awesome calling card because it's, having to talk to so many different bands and I mean, anyone who knows anything about metal and that era knows that there was conflict between the bands and the label owner, and to get all of them into one book and tell the story, I think is incredibly impressive. And as soon as I heard that this book even existed, I was like, right, I've got to track that down. I've got to get a copy of that. Considering doing a book on Volbeat, are we?
No, it's not. It's not on Volbeat. I'll just say he's a.
It's Merciful Fate. Silly me.
Mum is the word. On
No. King is the word.
Yeah, there we go. King is the word on that, but that will take a lot of work. But
yeah,
that is potentially. I will not confirm nor deny that is potentially one of the ideas we are discussing.
Brilliant. Well, I know I've had Hank Sherman on here, and he was.
Hank's great. Yeah,
he's
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We could have talked for days. It's just a really, really lovely guy. And he was really, really nice about King as well.
Yeah, it seems like they still all have a really good relationship. I wonder what they're thinking about this whole thing, because King has been devoted solely to his namesake band for all this time, and Merciful Fate hasn't done anything outside of one-off shows here and there with Metallica. the last 15 or 20 some odd years. So I should say 15 or so, actually. I think they were last active around 1999. So, you could ask a cross-section of people, well, what do you prefer, King Diamond or Merciful Fate? And I would say at this point, I'd be more interested in a Merciful Fate album than a King Diamond album, but that's just my preference. But I love both bands dearly. So hopefully they'll do something again before everyone gets too old.
Well, I agree. I'd be excited for a new Merciful Fate album, but I think probably like you, it's been so many years since there's been a Merciful Fate album. I mean, come on, basically there's a new King Diamond album every few years, so it would be awesome for those guys to get back in a room together and see what they could create.
Absolutely, I agree. So fingers crossed on that. Maybe Michael Denner will be involved too, because of course he and Hank Sherman are one of the best guitar tandems in metal history. That would be a beautiful thing. Not to discount Mike Wedd, the guy who they currently have in there. He's a fantastic player as well. But there's something special when Hank Sherman and Michael Denner play together.
Well, when I spoke to Hank, it was when they were first putting out the Denner Sherman stuff.
The Denner Sherman, I should say. Oh, right.
Yeah, and they still working together and get along fantastically. So, who knows?
Hey, who knows? Fingers crossed. It'd be awesome if it happened.
It would, and I think their place in history has been kind of, I don't know, they get lost sometimes, but they were a huge influence on bands like Metallica and Slayer. I mean, Kerry King has said, that Hell Awaits is basically a Merciful Fate album.
But basically, yeah, you could argue that, absolutely, yeah, and they were a big influence on Sabbath. Andy Sneap said that many times. He was a huge Merciful Fate fan, and that's what helped jumpstart their career. Yeah, just a fantastic band.
So with all of the noise bands and all of the work that you put in, was there any time where you were like, look, someone's just really being kind of, over the top and not nasty, but basically, funny enough, picking up on what you said about Terry B, I thought that was very interesting, and all credit to her for kind of walking away and saying, do you know what, it almost sounds like, if you haven't got anything good to say, then don't say anything.
Don't say anything at all. Right, I do give her credit. But to answer your question, out of the bands, though, they were pretty respectful and honest about their time. I mean, there was no slander or libel in the book. Really, the only person that we had to edit was actually Carl himself. Some of the things that he said about certain people we literally could not use, else we would be in some potential legal trouble. But he was really the only one. I mean, even with the bitter feelings that still exist, Tom G. Warrior was fine. The Halloween guys were all great, in spite of what happened to them. Milla from Creator has said that he and Carl have made up, and they have a good relationship now. And so, really, there wasn't anyone who we had to censor and be like, "Whoa, you've gone a little bit too far" about Carl or Noise Records. That's
great. That's really cool. By the sounds of it, he'd make a great podcast interview. So I am going to I'm going to bring the interview to a close, but don't go anywhere, because I'd love to ask you a couple of questions off the record.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Cool. Okay. Well, but for now, do you want to tell everybody what your website's called?
Yeah, absolutely. The book can be purchased on Amazon, of course, as well as through Iron Pages. That's just Iron and Pages. I believe, though, the URL is iron/pages.de, because it's a German site. You can get it there. I believe, since the book is distributed by SPV, you can get it from record labels like Nuclear Blast and Season of Mist are all carrying it as well. But I also have my own website. Over here in the States, I created my own publishing company to release the book, and the company is called Deliberation Press. And you can get the book at deliberationpress.com. And I personally ship it. Some people have asked me to sign it. So, lucky them, they get a signature of the Noise Records book with my John Hancock on it. So, yeah.
Oh, I'm gutted I got mine through Amazon now.
What was that?
I'm gutted I got mine through Amazon. I should have got it. I should have got it from you.
You are in the UK. It would be a little bit more expensive to ship it over. They really get you on shipping costs.
Yes, I did do the maths, and Amazon won every time.
Right, but yeah, that's where you can get it. Thankfully, at least on your side of the pond, SPV is distributing the book, so it's available in a lot of places, which is really great.
Great. Is there a Facebook page or Twitter?
Yeah, it's very simple. It's just facebook.com/noiserecordsbook.
Right, nice, like your style.
Yeah, very simple. I didn't want to complicate it any.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Anything on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that?
No, I'm just focusing on. I'm not much of a. It's weird because I'm really not in social media or things like that. So doing stuff for the book is sort of out of my character, but I've slowly adapted to it. But right now, the Facebook page seems to be working just fine.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, look, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people going out and getting that book. And look, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Howard.
It's been awesome. I'm going to finish the interview, but we'll have a little bit of a catch up as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Howard.
So that's David Gehlke there. And, well, what can I say apart from the chat that we had eventually led to, well, the chat after the interview eventually led to me saying, is there any chance you would give me Carl's email address? And he was like, yeah, no worries. So what happened? He gave me Carl's email address. Carl said, "Yeah, no problem. I remember you," which is great. And then unfortunately, it was a no-show on the arranged time. But then I emailed him. It was going to be a Sunday, and I emailed him and said, "Look, do you still want to do this?" He's like, "Yeah, sorry, production problems, got waylaid. We'll reorganise." So, haven't got a new date and time yet, but just so you know, that has kind of followed on from that, and that will be a special. That will probably be a Noise Records special, and that will, from what I can gather from what, and certainly from what David said, I think Carl and I are going to pretty much be talking for a long time, so that might just be a one-off, big, long special, and a completely different to anything I've done before, which could be very, very cool. So yeah, yeah. Great. And as mentioned in the interview there, I have the Voivod reissues. 3-disc editions for $9.99. That is the remastered Genius album. Then that's a CD of remastered live stuff, which is in some cases live recording, in some cases bootlegs, but it's still not bad. And then a DVD for $9.99, a triple. You've got to go and get those, okay? You've got to go and get them. I got Killing Technology and Dimension Hatros. As I said, I'm up north at the moment where I've been on holiday since getting shit canned. Like I said, really not bothered. Paid to leave a job I hate. That's good. Yeah, I've been listening to them. Listen to them on the way up. I mean, they just sound great. Dimension Hatros, I cannot stop playing it. It's just a work of genius. There's just not a weak thing on it. Nothing. Well, of course, there is, Batman. But let's not have, there's Batman as an extra track on the CD, but let's not talk about that too much. So what else are we going? There's just a couple more things I wanted to talk to you about before heading off. And I guess it comes back to the fact that, we were talking about, I'm just sharing my love of a few new albums at the moment and everything, and the fact that friends recommending stuff is now as important as anything. That old when you used to go into a record shop and see what people are buying or meet people, you'd actually meet them at a record shop. They become friends. You'd have record shop friends who you might only ever see there, but you'd share your tastes and your tips with each other, and then people working in the shop, and of course that's all gone. And I know I sound like an old bastard, but most of you remember these days. I know that for a fact. And the thing is that because they're not around anymore, and if you're relying on things like Pandora and Spotify to expand your tastes, unfortunately Spotify is like and Pandora, they work on an algorithm that is the same as Google. So if you think, when you're Googling stuff, right, Google keeps your search history, and it doesn't. So if you Google, like if you're Googling something, let's just say golf courses, Google will give you the results it thinks you want based on your search history. It's not going to give you the best golf course near you. It's not going to give you the smallest or the largest. It's going to give the one that it thinks you're looking for. And that's the thing with music is, you're only going to get choices recommended based on what you've listened to in the past. You're not going to get that totally left field recommendation that you're going to get from a mate and going to go, look, for instance, I was really into Marillion at the time, and someone said, Dream of the Blue Turtles, Sting's first solo album. I was like, right, that's really Marillion, I'm into that, but I'm also into my metal. And they said, no, try this. And to this day, I love that album. It's a total one-off. I don't like any of this other solo stuff or anything like that. I did like the Police. But yeah, so what I'm saying is that with Spotify, it is a case, and Pandora, the whole algorithm is based on just recommending stuff that they want you to like, so it keeps you going down the Spotify rabbit hole, so it keeps you on Spotify. So basically what I'm saying is musical friends are as important as ever, and getting out there and telling everybody about the latest stuff you're listening to is as important as ever. So, and I'm sure lots of you do that. So right up there with the new Living Colour album, there's a new Extreme album on the way. The words Noise Terror better be coming after that fucking Extreme for me to be interested. A new Extreme. Who the fuck wants a new Extreme album? And finally, it's our old mate, Lars Ulrich. Lars has finally decided to join in the game that the rest of us have been playing for years, since fucking Justice, or since the Black Album. He's finally decided to join in the game that we've all been playing for years, and that is, who would he get to replace him in Metallica? He picked Phil Rudd. Phil Rudd. That would be Mad Phil Rudd. Last seen on YouTube, getting done for having meth at his house and all sorts of shit like that. He's cleaned his act up now, and he's touring with his solo band. But there you go. Somebody who doesn't play fast at all and keeps a solid, if unspectacular, 4/4. All I can say is if that is your inspiration, if Phil Rudd is your inspiration, then you probably shouldn't be playing in a thrash band. Anyway, that's my last bit of jibber jabber. Now it's time for the last interview, and this is a bit of a special one. I literally came off the phone from Dan about 10 minutes ago, well, from just before recording this, and this is the latest and very, very special chat with Dan in Cancer Corner.
Easy.
Hello, mate.
How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
Excellent. Just taking it easy, nice slow day?
Yeah, really slow day, just been chilling out today. I'm just making the most of my last days off work before I'm going back full time.
Ooh, going back full time, eh? That must mean
like a man.
like a man, yeah, bruv. So going back full time, I think you've given the game away there.
Yeah, I know. I've kind of dropped a bollock straight away, haven't I?
You've dropped a talking bollock, eh?
Yes.
So give us the news, like I didn't know already, but go for it.
So I got scanned just before my last round of chemo, and the results came back all clear. I'm officially in remission. Boom, cancer is all gone. Kicked it in the dick.
That is, punched it in the dick punch. Nasty.
Dick punch. Too right. I fight dirty.
Yeah, hey, with cancer, mate, you got to get down and dirty. That's simple as that.
Too right.
Yeah.
Nail.
Yeah. Well, yet more proof. Cancer picked the wrong guy yet again.
Very true.
So where did you have it last time? What part of your body?
The first time, that was the lymph node in my armpit swelled up,
right.
And it had travelled from my armpit all the way like up my chest towards like my collarbone sort of area.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's and now you've had liver and spine.
Yes.
Awesome. So what's next then? You've got to get the full set.
I know. Well, there's plenty I've still got to tick off yet, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I won't start naming them because I don't want to. I don't want to tempt fate.
Yeah, we'll be back here in 6 months and people will be fucking tweeting me going,
for fuck's sake, it was that conversation I had with H.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll be getting people tweeting me going, you fucking bastard. You've given Dan cancer via podcast. Fucking hell. Oh, mate. Look, I mean, we haven't had a chance to talk since you sent me that message, but it's great news, dude. It's great news.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I still don't think it's properly sunk in. I even, I held off telling people for a little bit just because I had, more chemo to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be I didn't want to, put it out there going, well, beat it, but I'm still having my fucking ass kicked by this chemo. And then, but it still hasn't really sunk in. And it was I thought, right, I'll get it out there. So, I posted that status thing on Facebook last night, just letting people know.
Yeah.
Because, all the support and stuff I've had from everyone, on my video blog has been fucking ace. So I thought I'd tell people I'm there, and then I recorded another video blog, which I need to post it in 2 parts because I ended up going on for 20 minutes on that one. So I was going to post that tonight or over the weekend. But it still feels fucking weird. So I think partly because I'm still at the minute I'm still in the sort of chemo routine a little bit. I'm waiting for my withdrawal to kick in within the next day or two, and then my immune system's still a bit obviously because I've only had the chemo on Monday, so my immune system's still going to be in the toilet for the next 2 weeks. So I've still got to take it steady. So it's weird though. I don't know. It's a really fucking weird thing.
It's funny, like you were saying though, your reaction when you first got told, and you thought you did want to. It takes me back to your reaction when you got told that you'd got cancer, and it was like, no, I'm still going to go and meet my mate in town. It's almost like that sort of. It's so much to take in. You just sort of park it, don't you? You just sort of park it and go, right. Okay, I know. Right, I know that, but I'm just going to park it there, and I'll deal with it when I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's it. And as I say, the chemo, the treatment itself is its own thing you've got to deal with. In it, so it's everything's just you've got to break everything into manageable fucking clumps and shit in it. So but it's, as I say, it still feels. I don't know. I keep thinking I think part of my head is still in that sort of thing where I'm right, I need to get through this week and I need to get through that week, and then I keep going, oh shit, I don't have to go back in 2 weeks' time. And it's my brain keeps, it's almost when you're on a track and then all of a sudden the track just sort of diverts when you're not expecting it to, and it's just oh shit, this is going in a different fucking direction now, and it has been for the past 5 months. So
it's awesome, but what? I mean, I'm sure a few people will be thinking what I'm thinking, which is, I thought you were going to have to wait for 6 months after the chemo to find out if it had all gone. So.
No, they did that with the radiotherapy. It was 3 months after the radiotherapy because the radiation stays in your system for however, it was 3 months that time. So the radiation would have just showed up on the PET scan. So they wouldn't have been able to differentiate it from the cancer. So they had to wait for that to get out of my system. But I don't know whether this is because instead of it being this is more it's a chemical thing as opposed to a radiation thing, and you piss it out and sweat it out and all this fucking stuff. So I guess it's a different thing where they just said, we can scan you as and when we need to, basically.
That's awesome. You must have been absolutely bricking it when they said we're gonna scan you to see if it's gone or if it's still there. I was expecting it to be a really fucking long week, but I managed to keep myself busy, and I went to work and stuff like that, and so I just refused to fucking think about it. Yeah. So I think I just refused, and I just had to get on with it. But I was trying to get as many things booked in on the night sort of thing as well. But when I came home from work, I was busy. Yeah. But you've always got that. You've always got that moment when your head hits the pillow, haven't you? And you've got to try and quieten the voices then.
Yeah, exactly. And I've talked about that in the in the video blog that I've just done, actually, because like I was just saying, like, remission in itself is another thing you have to deal with. I said in the video blog, actually, there's a reason Mastodon have just released a concept album that's about dealing with the aftermath of cancer.
Yeah.
Like, not necessarily cancer itself, it's the aftermath of it, and it's coming to terms with what you've sort of gone through. And I've said in the video blog, I want to keep doing them as well. Not as regularly as I was doing them during the chemo, because I don't want to drive people fucking mad with it, but like, that was one of the things I found was like, like the hospital have been like said to me, they've offered me like counselling and stuff, which I don't really think I need. I'm not going to go for that unless I all of a sudden have a breakdown out of nowhere. But like, you know, but there was one of those things where you just like it's trying to find like things on the internet and stuff to like help you like process that shit.
Yeah.
Like once you've gone through it.
Yeah.
I thought they could maybe do to be a little bit more of that, like about. So that's why I thought I wanted to try and keep up with the video blogs a little bit.
And luckily, you've got Emperor of Sand to listen to as well.
Exactly, it's a fucking class album too.
Well, I'm totally up there with you. Earlier on in this podcast, I was like giving a few people some recommends for stuff to listen to, and that was the album of our tour. I mean, me, Paul, and Mark. We're all just playing it all the time. At one point, Paul and I had actually, unbeknownst to the two of us, were listening to it, and we were both on the same song at the same time. Mark loves it. Cookie bought it. I'm not sure what Pete thought, but it's definitely the album of that tour. And there is some real classic lyrics on there if you know what you're listening for.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, funnily, I don't actually study lyrics too much, to be fair. Like, but like, there's a lot of sort of metaphorical stuff on it in there. Like,
oh yeah,
and I mean, even like the bit, like, I think it's just one of the songs is just called "Show Yourself," and that just kind of immediately was just like, it just at least it just sort of sprung to my mind, just the fucking paranoia that you have, like after being told, you know, that you're like what you know. My brain's just gone blank again. So like being told that, you know, you're in remission or whatever like that, and then there's like that fear that it might come back and all this stuff, and that sort of just clicked in my head, for me at least. Yeah. So,
well, no, there's a number of songs on the album. I mean, I think Steam Breather. There's and also I think the for me the very last song, Jaguar God. The opening line where he says, like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like I was out on my own doing fine when I heard, you know, and there's this like and it's like basically it's almost like, you know, I was out walking when I heard this news, and I will always remember where I was when I heard it. And there's some awesome stuff in there. There's some awesome stuff in there. Well, look, we'll do the same. We'll do the same with the podcast, right? What we'll do is we'll knock these on the head when you're chemoless, because because that's boring, really. And we'll call back. You know, there's absolutely no reason to not sort of call back in on you, every few months and get an update from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when you message me, I'm still up for doing that one in the pub one time. It'll be good to have a bit of piss up and that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I don't think I've seen you since that Norwich gig, in fact, have I? So.
No, I think you're right. I think was it Norwich or was it... yeah, it was Norwich, wasn't it? Cause
it was Norwich, yeah.
Camden Underworld was before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
In fact, yeah, because Camden Underworld, the day before that was the day that I got told I had cancer the first time.
Fucking hell, right, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, because I've got... It's dead funny as well, because you obviously you know, because I messaged you about it, but yeah, nice one, rubbing it in. You're going back to work full time, you fucking bastard.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't even fucking click.
He says to the redundant bastard, you twat.
Yeah. I know. It's gonna be one of them. What is it? They all complain about the benefit sponges and stuff, don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, mate, yeah. I'm gonna be sponging for everything I can.
I do it. Rinse it.
My two broken legs, my dodgy back.
Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely, and a shitload of other stuff that I haven't got.
Yeah.
And let's face it as well. Even if the benefits people were trying to find out if I was genuine or not, they're not going to listen to this far into the podcast. They're going to get about 10 minutes in and go, "Fuck this! I'm not listening to all of this."
Yeah, I think we've got better things to do with the time, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Unlike me, again, thank you very much, you bastard.
Unlike you.
Yeah.
He just always comes back. It's a vicious circle, H. You don't have to get used to this.
Yeah, I know, bastard. So look, I'm a little bit confused. Have you got your next chemo to go yet?
No, I just did it on Monday.
Oh, fucking hell, right, okay. Well, you sound incredibly together, bearing in mind it was only Monday.
Thank you. Well, to be fair, like I was saying, I can't remember what I was saying it to. They gave me some stronger sickness tablets on round 5 because I threw up such a lot on round 4. They gave me some stronger sickness tablets, so I didn't throw up. But I think because I wasn't getting it out of my system, it was just like it was all just still in there, like gestating and stuff.
Yeah.
So like, but this time, these tablets didn't work. I actually threw up in the hospital while I was sat with the fucking drip in my hand. I went and nipped the toilet.
Oh, that's nice.
Luckily, I was in the toilet when it just came on, sort of thing. But like the nurse said, I'll have a lot of sort of anticipatory stuff sort of being in there, like just being sat in the chair and the smells of the place and stuff.
Yeah.
So I threw up in the hospital, and then I spent all of Tuesday just chucking my guts up.
Oh,
so
you're not going to miss that, are you?
I've managed it. No, I fucking not. I am not going to miss that. So I think because I've got some of it out of my system a little bit, I think that's kind of helped a bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, and I took my last ever round of steroids this morning as well.
Awesome. Right. Oh, right. So you've got you've got raisin bollocks at the moment then. yeah, basically, yeah. Yeah, well, it's at least
at least never any fucking different anyway.
I was going to say, at least you've got an excuse for having raisin bollocks now, haven't you? Oh dear, yeah. Go out in town to get laid. Sorry, girls. Steroids still in effect.
Steroids did it.
Yeah, but damn, that was 5 years ago.
I was going to say, I'll be using that excuse for fucking years.
Yeah. Let's settle down and have kids. What, with these? You're joking.
Ain't happening.
So I saw you're sorting some gigs out as well.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. So last year we did metal for Macmillan. We called it. We did a gig in Hull. We just had like we got Balls Deep, who I think you've played with a couple of times. In fact.
Really?
I know Re-Animated. Yeah, we've got them on it because they're quite good mates of ours. From Stoke.
Right. I don't think we've played with them, but I might be wrong because we've done festivals where like we turn up late in the day and don't really see anybody. But
that might be it. Yeah, I might have seen your name on some festival builds off with them. So we got them on. They've got them on board because they're quite good mates of ours.
Yeah.
We've got a few other local bands and stuff on it. So we did that in August last year, and we ended up raising 714 quid from Macmillan Cancer Support. Right. So this time we've booked it in for September. We're going to get some more local bands on, get Balls Deep on it again, and I want to try and smash a grand in.
What about Re-Animator?
I offered them it last time, and they just said they wanted to get pissed and just watch us, which is.
The ultimate,
them, can you?
Yeah, the ultimate accolade. I thought you were going to say we offered it last time, but they wanted a grand.
Yeah, a fucking grand. I was like, I am paying it, yeah. And then how do I get paid? And then how do I not feel guilty?
Yeah, absolutely.
The money.
Yeah, you've got to take your part of the fee and give it to charity. Everybody else just takes theirs and spends it at the bar. Yeah.
Yeah, not fucking happening.
Well, if I can help in any way, let me know what the date is. If I can come up and MC it for you, or
nice one.
or whatever, or even try and do an episode of the podcast, or do a live podcast, and I don't know,
that would be ace. Yeah, that would be awesome. It's September 2nd in Hull.
Right. Okay. Well, bear with me because I will look in my calendar now, and let's have a look. Bearing in mind, the small matter of trying to get a job, to sort out.
Yeah. Well, we know how busy you are at the minute, don't we? So
yeah, fuck off.
We've covered that topic in great detail.
Yeah, 2nd of September.
Yeah. You're working.
XIII. Yeah,
Yes.
extra large.
Yeah.
Whole cancer do. Okay.
Yes.
It's in the diary, unless something better comes up.
Like a job.
Yeah. Unless someone else comes up, mate, I'm down for that.
Nice one.
And maybe we could even possibly do a live podcast where we do a kind of a Q&A, and we maybe get John and Kev along from Re-Animator and do a sort of back in the day and take questions from people as well about, like, touring with people like Exodus and Dark Angel and all the rest of them back in the day. And we'll figure something out, mate, because I've never done a live one, so we could make it the first ever live one and really try and make a big deal of this day. Yeah,
that'd be fun, that'd be cool.
And
I'll just sit and listen to you tell all your old war stories, because a lot of that happened before I was even fucking born.
Absolutely, mate. Well, anything's better than sitting listening to you go on about fucking cancer and chemo, to be honest.
Yeah, no, we've had enough of that now, I think, haven't we?
Yeah.
Fucking have.
Yeah, no, but it's you're not special anymore. You're just a run-of-the-mill fucking human like the rest of us, except you got a job.
Yeah. Except one thing on round 5.
Oh yeah.
Chemo. It took them 5 goes to get the needle in my hand. On the 4th one, they couldn't even pierce the skin. And the nurse said in 6 years of cannulating people, she's never known the needle to not even be able to break the skin. So I think I'm some kind of fucking superhero now. You
leathery bastard.
Right.
Yeah. I tell you what, you're fucked if you want to try heroin.
Yeah, I know.
Just fucking,
that was going to be my next fucking venture.
Yeah, fucking hell. Sharing needles, forget it. They fucking snap on this dude.
Yes. I'm like Luke Cage and Deadpool rolled into one.
What, you're 6'2" and black?
Yes.
I mean, Deadpool, yeah, I get that. But Luke Cage, I'm really not sure where you're coming from with that.
Well...
You're more of a Jessica Jones, if you ask me. But there you go. That's
yeah, she's cool. I'm all right with that.
Have you watched that, by the way?
Jessica Jones, I have. Yeah, I thought it was fucking ace. I haven't watched Luke Cage yet.
Yeah, Luke Cage has got some seriously shit reviews, and there's going to be another series before they do another Jessica Jones, and I really enjoyed Jessica Jones.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
It took a while to get going, and it took a while for me to accept old Scottish Bollocks as the villain, David Tennant.
Yeah.
But once it gets going, it's awesome.
Yeah. I thought it was brilliant. The one that I absolutely loved, though, was I absolutely loved Daredevil. I thought that was just brilliant.
Right, yeah.
I thought the first series was better than the second one, but having the Punisher sort of made up for it. I thought he was fucking ace as the Punisher.
Well, that first scene where you ever see the Punisher, and it's just like, if you slow it down, you see the skull in blood on his t-shirt in that fight.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, that's like, wow. That's how to introduce a fucking superhero. Well, sort of hero.
Well, he's just a fucking nut job, isn't he, basically?
Super mass killer.
Yeah, there was one of the bits my mate pointed out. He said they got the tone perfect. Was when I can't remember. Did he go into a shop to buy a load of guns or something? So the dude was like, "Oh, do you fancy buying this or do you fancy buying that? We've got pictures." And he's like, "No." And then he goes, "Oh, we've got pictures of little kids." And then he just drops his bag and turns around and goes after him. I was like, "Yeah, that's fucking the Punisher, isn't it?" Right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's you're going to be a bit of a Punisher when you get back out on the beer and on the streets and.
Oh, mate. I'm going to be wrecked after 2 pints. I'm going to be a complete mess.
You will be, won't you? You will. Well,
I will.
And let's face it, you've got an excuse to drink fucking rum and coke for the rest of your life.
I have. My drummer for 13, Tom, bless him, he's bought me a massive bottle of Captain Morgan's, stuck my face over the picture of the pirate as well. So
that is awesome. That is awesome. But
I can't wait to crack that open.
The thing is, I can't wait for one day in your life you're going to order a rum and coke and you're going to be winging a bunch of guys and someone's going to go, "Ooh, rum and coke," and you are going to have the best put down to make that guy feel the size of a fucking matchstick. We just turn around and go, "If it wasn't for drinking rum and coke, I would never have got cancer diagnosed a second time."
Exactly.
I'm drinking this not out of choice, but to save my life. Seriously,
it's
man.
Funny how many people have told me that I need to keep drinking rum for that very reason.
Seriously, mate,
like,
you should do.
You're almost encouraging alcoholism.
Seriously, dude, I want to film an advert with you on high production values with like a bottle of rum and coke, and basically saying that, you know, we'll do the whole documentary story of how you discovered cancer, right? And then we sell that finished commercial to like fucking Captain Morgan or someone like that. And seriously, mate, you want to be absolutely caning this. You want to be getting them in on tweets. You want to do you want to do the video diary and send them it and go, right, come on, let's have some money for fucking Macmillan out of you. Yeah,
that's a good idea. That, yeah.
You know, or get them, or even if it's just to get them to sponsor the thing in Hull. Get them involved.
Yeah.
Get onto them. They will.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, mate. Get some because that is that kind of thing is something they're going to want to be associated with, because, you know, as an alcohol brand, the only way you can get positive PR is either you pay for it and you sponsor a band on tour or whatever, or an event or charity. And you know, and the link between you and cancer and rum, and wow, I mean, fucking hell.
Yeah.
There's got to be something in there.
That's a good idea, that.
Well, I tell you what, I know somebody who's going to have a lot of time on his hands.
If that said fucking bum needs something to do.
Yeah, I'd say that bum and the rest of me is going to need something to do. So I'll get onto that, dude. I'll get onto that.
Oh, nice one, thank you.
Awesome. Well, look, let's not make this the last one. I'm keen to speak to you next month as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And don't hang up, because I need a brief chat with you. But I
was going to ask you a couple of things too. Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, look, I'm sure I speak for everybody listening that, you know, this has been fucking great. It's the ultimate. It's the ultimate result. It's what we were all after, even if it does mean, you know, the end of your special guests. But it's, you know, it's not. We'll just space them out. But
yeah, I mean, you just got to put up with for a bit longer, doesn't it, as well?
Absolutely. But look,
for you to consider.
Well, look, having spoken to people on the road out on tour and knowing that people have found your story somewhat inspirational, this is in what has been a very fucking shit last couple of weeks with Chris Cornell and Manchester bombings and everything else. This is a fucking great way to go out, because the podcast started on a low and I feel like it's going out on a high. It's great news, mate. And I speak for everyone and say, brilliant. It's great knowing we're going to have you around for a few more years yet.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to say as well, I'm like, just yourself doing these podcasts and stuff. It's helped me so much talking to you about it. It's helped me stay focused and stuff like that. And so I can't fucking thank you enough, to be quite honest with you. It's just been fucking brilliant for me. And then knowing that other people are getting some out of it as well, like, and hopefully I'm helping other people who might be going through it or something like that. And the feedback and the support of everyone, like the comments that you've passed on to me, it's just been absolutely fucking just overwhelming, to be quite honest. I can't thank you, and I can't thank the listeners enough. Just thank you all very fucking much. I mean that as well.
Well, that's great, mate. Yeah. And I mean, from my point of view, it's been absolutely awesome having at least 20 minutes of filler for the end of the podcast. You know? Yeah, well, as long as you're managing to fill your fucking podcast out, you bastard. Yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely. All right, let's finish it there. It's been a pleasure, Dan. Nice one.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you.
And there you go. The last ever, hopefully, Cancer Corner. That was more Chemo Corner. But fucking great news. Absolutely wonderful news. I'm sure you're all as pleased to hear that as I was. He told me earlier in the week, and we were just swapping messages. I was like, "Oh, I've been made redundant. Oh, I've got all the all clear." It's like, "Oh, dude, this is awesome." What a great way to end the podcast. As I said there, it's on an uplifting note. It's been a tough old time in 2017. Anybody listening to this in the years to come, these were some fucking heavy weeks, all right? You remember them well if you were around, but yeah, it's just really good to finish on a positive note. And obviously the other positive note is, as always, thank you so much to you all for listening. Please, I cannot ask you enough, please share the podcast. If you like it, if you love it, clap your hands. If you like it and you love it, clap your hands. If you like it and you love it, clap your hands. If you like it and you love it and you want to show your bollocks, if you like it and you love it, please share the fuck out of it. There we go. It's a while since we've had a little song on the end of the podcast, and there you go. Free, that one. Please do share your love. You know, nick people's podcast apps, nick people's phones, nick people's laptops, smash their iPads, they're shit. Just ask anybody who's ever tried to Skype on one. Or join a group Skype on one. Shit. But, look, please share it, share the love. If you happen to be on iTunes, Shitetunes, whatever you want to call it, if you happen to be passing by, it'd be nice to get some stars, either 5 or none. Not really interested in your genuine opinion, but seriously, you know the score, guys. Please do share the love, because I'm really enjoying doing these, and I really want to get to a stage where we can up our game and get some, basically make some money out of it. I'm fucking redundant. I need every penny I can get here, guys. Come on, help me out, help a guy out. So please do shed the love. That's getting rid of the love. Shed the love. Get rid of the love. No, please share the love, and let's try and get this podcast up to a new level. So, as always, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you very, very much for listening. And as always, it is time to finish on a song. As previously promised, as close as I'm ever going to get to a promise. This is from the new He Is Legend album called Few, F-E-W. That's Foxtrot Echo Whiskey, for all you fans of the phonetic alphabet. Please do. Tangent. Got one in. This, like I said, not metal, not Deftones, just different. Listen to this song. It really does. It tells you everything you need to know about He Is Legend, because it starts one way, it goes this way and that way, and what a voice, etc. I hope that's me hitting a chandelier. Sounds like I live in a fucking Buckingham Palace, like my mum does. Anyway, no, that's not true. And I'm pretty short, so me touching the ceiling. I've gone off on a tangent again. Fuck it. This is an awesome album. It's a fantastic song off an awesome album. The album is Few, the band is He Is Legend, and the song is Sand.